Hello, welcome. I hope everyone's got something to drink because today was an interesting trial day. I see we've got somebody from Australia. Wow. How are people? How are people doing? Are people doing well? Are people sort of? Oh, it's been a long day. it's. I hope some people are rested up and ready to go because this is going to be a bit exciting. So, yeah, we've got. I don't really know what to make of this one because there were some really interesting moments, and by interesting I mean weird, weird moments. Um, some of the stuff that went down today you would never see in a Canadian courtroom, and yeah, let's talk about that. So they started off late. And the reason why they started off late is because the roads there are apparently awful. Hi, I don't know what to make of that, but welcome. And if lawyer is doing a stream right now, his stuff is great. So I recommend people check that out. And you can catch up to me on replay when he wraps up because I mean, amongst other things, I'm in this because it's funny. He's in this because he does this kind of work. So I'm going to give him the points on that one. So that said, I watched most of this, and what I found, or most of his stream, of course, I had to leave to come on and be on, but I think we're largely in agreement. And, everybody brings certain biases or certain leanings to this. I don't think anybody is biased in the sense of like unable to come to reasonable conclusions, but there are ranges of reasonable, right? There's ranges of, and there's different interpretations, right? So I really like, I like watching his stuff because we don't always agree on some of the interpretations, but I like getting those other interpretations. So I see. Watch the trial. Sorry, Peter, but I ditched for funny. Well, that's fair. Because yeah, I've got some snark. So let's, I guess, try to dive right in here, and I'm gonna do my best to try to find my. Whoop! I just trying to get my windows going here. I'm gonna do my best to try to find the appropriate timestamps here, but all right, there we go. And I need to, right, I forgot. I need this face. There we go. There, we've got the face. Somebody's asking, can I explain Canadian sorry law? I can, because Canadian sorry law is fun. How are the pups tonight? The pups are doing great. They are right now, and they're right now kind of chilling out. So this stream starts with kind of some, I was going to say spice, but it's not really spice. It's actually kind of a pissing match.
On the exhibit that people have been showing, the email.
So are you guys able to hear this? Let me know in the chat if you can hear this.
But to the plaintiff, to his daughter, and back the same day of the incident?
True. It has nothing to do with the GoPro. The GoPro is a separate issue.
It's the link at the bottom of Mr.
This is important. That little throwaway line, right? That little throwaway line is super important because the GoPro is a separate issue. That link never linked to a GoPro video, right? And it was never described as linking to a GoPro video. So the whole thing is this link, the link itself is, who cares, right? They're going to argue about it. There's going to be a big fight, but at the end of the day, we don't really care about the link. The GoPro video is still going to be a huge issue, and we're going to hear some things about that. I'm hearing that this is a little loud, so I'll tone it down.
Mr. Sanderson's email.
Comments.
So we've got the exhibit now, or the results of that link.
Yeah, so
with a string of comments.
So you can correct me, Pete, but as I understand it, we're in agreement that it can come in, but defense would like to have it be connected to both the page that we've already shown. I don't know if you can see this, Your Honor, but
Whitney,
it's the picture of Whitney with some description, which is actually the page you get to if you press the link or would have gotten to before. We can explain that.
once it was activated.
Now, does anyone else feel like this judge looks like he's aged just over the course of this trial? I feel like this judge's hairline has moved back. And yeah, I seen somebody saying video is too loud still. All right, let's try to tone the video down a little bit here. But yeah, if I was this judge, I feel like I'd have to be trying to expense some wine to the courthouse or something. So let's look at this slap fight.
And then another page, which you have to exit out of that picture with a little caption, and it gives you another page that includes a little event link, that when you press that link, it goes to these comments. And so we think they should all go together to make a clear picture, but we're not objecting to the comments themselves.
Well, we can't, there's no way we can get that done in time. So we're putting him on first. And if they want to supplement, and we'll stipulate that no one's at fault for this. You know,
I won't stipulate.
Let me just, I don't know if you knew this.
So did you catch that? We'll stipulate that no one's at fault, says plaintiff. And then Owens. Of course, Owens. Owens is there like, no, we're not stipulating to that. We think plaintiffs are at fault. How about we stipulate that plaintiffs are at fault? So what is this slap fight about? Well, the slap fight here is basically about what the jury gets told. So plaintiff wants the jury to be told, hey, this video has become available and, it's a tragic circumstance, but it's not anybody's fault, but now you have it. And isn't that great, jury? Defense side, Owens in particular, wants the jury to be told, hey, this is all plaintiff's fault. Plaintiffs are the ones who screwed up, and plaintiffs are the ones who should be, like, the jury should be told that the plaintiffs hid this, basically. Well, what do you think the jury's going to think if they're told, hey, this link was hidden from the defense by, these? So I just want to stop right now and write this frame. This frame, I've accidentally caught the perfect moment. So let's have a look at the expressions here. So we've got, coughing guy. Oh, good. You can see the mouse. Coughing guy here, who just looks so freaking done, doesn't he? In this expression, doesn't he look just so exhausted? And then you've got this guy. I don't know his name. I'm just going to call him sort of slick back hair. Look at his expression of like, the hell you say? He looks like he wants to go back and just, settle this with fists. He's like, the hell? I got to wait until 2 hours before I can say what I actually think about his thing. But yeah, I mean, they're just so tired of Owens. And I've run trials with people like Owens, and it's so tiring. I mean, Owens, I think, is gifted that he's got what I think is the better case. And what I mean by the better case is I think he's just got better facts. And that's not actually, that might in part be good for Owens having great ground game. I've said that Owens might be a good lawyer. He might be excellent at getting the stuff he needs out in depositions. His trial game is not super fantastic. So this guy, I feel like, would just be tiring as hell. You just hate running trials against people like this. But these people think that you're like, sometimes you get lawyers who think that this gets them advantage because they think that, other lawyers will give up and sort of roll over if they do this. I don't think that works, because every time I encounter a lawyer who's this much of a, well, I had a phrase for him on Twitter. We'll just, sort of move that on. But you just want to fight harder. So, and I feel bad for Clark Kent here. I feel bad because Clark Kent has to sit next to Owens and be the reasonable guy in this. And it's such an annoying sort of circumstance here.
Mr. Sykes, but we're not starting at 9, and we'll start at 9:15 if the jury's assembled. I'm not sure, they're not all here yet because of the snowstorm, so we've got a few minutes. But in principle, do we agree on that, Mr. Sorensen?
We do. We agree that it should come in. It's kind of working out the logistics of moving that forward, I think.
Oh, yeah, and the audio glitches are just in the original.
So you want me to instruct the jury that it's been found?
Well,
Yeah.
we had a couple of different ideas. I think that is a very fine instruction, Your Honor. I think we had also thought about possibly having Terry log it in to the site, and
But we don't need to do that,
show
though.
We don't need to do that if this is already.
And Judge, if they want to find that other page, we have no problem to that coming into, there's.
They argue so much over that.
So this person that contacted defense counsel had their password?
Basically, the judge is he's not buying some of the defense's story. So they're saying that it was only possible to do with plaintiff's password. And I can tell you, I accessed that link. I didn't use plaintiff's password. I made my own, I used my own Meetup login. So this really should have been accessible. I think that the judge is right when he ultimately refuses to give the example or the instruction that Owens asks for of plaintiff should have done this, and the judge makes good points. The judge says, listen, you could have fought this out in discovery. You could have fought this out a long time ago. You don't get to just not do those things and then come in here and ask for an instruction that throws them under the bus in front of the jury. I see Runkle the hacker. It's I know you're joking, but it's not hacking. It's but I see this thing of it supposedly reactivated the group chat. That's possible. And you know what? There's an argument to be made about that, but I still think the judge is right that they could have insisted on that in discovery. And also that, that also if they, if that was the issue, you need to bring some actual evidence of this. You can't just go and say, hey, we're asserting that this is, was unavailable. So that's not how that works. I'm going to see if I can find the instruction the judge ultimately comes to here, because there's a lot of slap fighting. And finally, it's we just move on because this is so dumb.
I think, to be clear, Eric Christensen was deposed. It was over Zoom. Let's give you a copy.
I've got hold 39 in abeyance to see if it gets admitted.
All right, now they're fighting over this, how this gets admitted. Oh, don't do that.
Put a title on the entire page.
If I could approach Judge.
What was the original exhibit?
So Owens keeps fighting over all of this little piddly nothing, who gives a crap, stuff. And I'm just why? You are low on time. Why are you fighting over all of this stuff that is just silly and pointless and ridiculous, when you are also complaining about the lack of time and how you're not going to be able to get all your witnesses in? Right? It's you're going into the doctor and you're like, hey, it hurts when I do this. And, he hits his arm in the, with a hammer. And the doctor's like, have you considered not doing that? Frustrating as hell to watch. So now
Exhibit 39, which may be introduced later. I'm correct?
And
Nope, they're still
43,
going.
Only use it during.
43 is a demonstrative exhibit that you could use during closing.
All right, let's see if I can find where the jury comes back here and we actually. Now, I thought this was interesting. You see what's happening right here? You see what's happening right here? So, remember how the court specifically said, like, because of this joint agreement, that they weren't supposed to focus on anybody unless they're talking? Did you see the camera just like panning over her? And why? Like, she's not doing anything. This is not her reacting to anything. All it is just showing her outfit, which looks like she's a Harry Potter extra. Like, who cares? Why are they doing this? And yeah, if I was the judge, I'd be getting a little annoyed here and saying, like, come on. So Owens is probably going to complain about this, but I think Owens is running out of like room for this. So like Owens is running out the patience that anyone exists. So yeah, and I see this is one thing I've got a concern about. Camera guy's going to get kicked out and we'll never know the conclusion of this case. I mean, we'll hear in the news what happened, but yeah. And I think she's the least interesting person in this courtroom right now. Sanderson is more interesting. And again, they shouldn't be focusing on him either. And oh man, why is this video so bad? So, but like, who cares about, why are they focusing on Sanderson here? All right. So now we're bringing in the jury and it's super audio choppy because I think Owens is wiggling the feed cable just to annoy us.
Jury instruction issue.
Thank you. Sorry to be vague. With the newly disclosed comments section, if they're going to use that with Terry, then I would like the instruction read that this came through defense counsel.
Your Honor, just to let, we advise defense
Why?
counsel and the clerk that we are going to call Craig Ramon for 5 minutes confirmation of the Exhibit 44.
I stipulated statement that the court will be giving the jury Exhibit 44.
We don't have it printed out, but it was the neutral Kristen Van Orman.
Agreement, otherwise I own.
Is Zora chewing the wires?
Orally, to go was
Oh,
fine.
this is so frustrating.
Will we be requesting what's in your filing?
Like, this is
But I'll have to go
Should we, 15 minutes ago?
same as
Yeah,
Except
available to either party.
I think the simple third party, and both parties are agreeing that
So let's get to where the judge gives his instruction because he's just kind of out of patience here. Again, they're focusing on Paltrow for no reason. Yeah, and I'm going to have a lot of impressions about, what do you call it, about Colonel Sanderson. Did anyone catch on Twitter the picture I posted up? I thought that was funny. I was very pleased with how Midjourney did on that. I tried to get some other great moments, but Midjourney did less well on those.
So I'm going to do is
There we go.
read something on the fly. Ask that the
Mid-journey. That's
council not embellish any of the facts.
Colonel
what I'm
Sanderson
about to
on the
read.
slopes.
See? Okay. We're ready for the jury.
That was just me doing that. Oh, and this is completely not what we want. There we go. All right, let's actually get to this jury instruction, which was the point of all this. There we go.
Good morning, members of the jury. Pray that your
Hey,
traveling
laptop with
in
mic
this
crew.
morning was safe and everyone got here okay. The weather outside is still winter, I guess.
Weather outside is frightful,
Well,
but in here it's
there
so
is
delightful.
a new piece of evidence in this case. I'm going to tell you about that. A viewer that's been following this trial out of the court and familiar with finding archived website links investigated the link referenced on Defendant's Exhibit 102. That's the Mr. Sanderson email to his daughters on the day of the accident. There's a link at the bottom of that page. Well, this viewer, through their efforts and expertise, through that, we now have a copy of what
Now,
was
their
linked.
efforts and expertise was probably just typing
And
in
you
the
will receive
URL
it.
and logging in with
Be an
a meetup
exhibit. It's
login.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 44 and Defendant's Exhibit 102. Plaintiff's
Hey.
Exhibit 44 and Defendant's Exhibit 102. And the parties do agree that this new exhibit is authentic. Plaintiff, you may proceed.
So the parties have stipulated that it's the real thing. Nobody has to prove that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Plaintiff Terry Sanderson recalls Craig Ramon.
So that was that was sort of the exhibit, or that's the whole instruction. And you see that ultimately what the judge said was nobody's really at fault. I'm not putting a fault instruction in here. So you guys will just have to live with that. I think that was the right call from the judge. But they start off with recalling Ramon. So we're going to get Ramon back. And so I see Samantha Steinis. Thank you very much for 10 gifted memberships. I'll mention that before I forget. There's a bunch of super chats. I will get to them. I'm going to respond to every super chat, but we'll just sort of proceed here. So yeah, Ramon, they bring back. And why do they bring Ramon back? Well, to talk a little bit about this stuff, right? They want to talk about the stuff in this. And so Ramon is not super interesting, I think, at this point, because basically Ramon is going to go over it. He's going to read some of the texts. And I think the most interesting moment Ramon had was, let me see, it's at like 2:04. Because they're pressing him on like, hey, all of this stuff that came in and so forth. No, stop doing that.
Says it's under very T. Yes, Kurt, you organized a perfect day for skiing. Thank you. That's true, Scott. I still have my wheels. It was nice to get to know you a bit today. Do you know whether that was written on the day of the accident?
I'm not sure if it was or not.
Would it surprise you that Mr. Sanderson was writing articulate notes like this after being knocked out and unconscious for 2 minutes?
It doesn't sound that articulate to me, but
It doesn't sound that articulate to me. I mean, Ramon kind of, to me, Ramon feels like he's a little biased. That's my take. If I was on the jury, I am thinking, you know what? Ramon is trying to be a good friend to his friend. And he's hedging. He's hedging in favor of Sanderson. I think that's where the jury is based on my read of this, and based on what I see on, what I see out there. So Ramon, I don't think he's super, yeah. Am I still planning on commenting on the Afro Man lawsuit? Time dependent. If we can get to it today, we will. Otherwise, I will cover that one. I do want to talk about it, but it might not be tonight, depending on timing, because a lot of people might be wanting to get to sleep. So I'll do a check when we get towards the end of this. So yeah, Ramon. I mean, I've seen some people saying that Ramon is going to get a cut. I don't think Ramon is getting a cut. I think he just thinks he's going to be a good friend and, so forth. And I think he's really hedging his, hedging things. And I get the feeling in some ways that Ramon might actually be the one pushing this a little bit. Because we heard that Ramon, and we hear this from other people, that Ramon was big on what Paltrow was doing, right? And we heard that Ramon was talking about what Paltrow, like where her kids went, what airport she was flying out of, and so forth. And we hear that Ramon was constantly mentioning that was Gwyneth Paltrow. That was Gwyneth Paltrow to the later witness, the EMT. And so I kind of wonder if Ramon didn't put like a bug in Terry Sanderson's ear about, hey, maybe go ahead on this. Now, I don't have anything to say that one way or another. It's just kind of the feeling I'd have if I was on the jury. And it's a theory I would be exploring if I was running this case. If I was on the defense, I would be possibly suggesting, did Ramon have the idea to, launch the suit? Did Ramon tell you that Gwyneth Paltrow would have a bunch of money? Did Ramon tell you that I don't know. And I mean, that's kind of my thoughts. Now, I mean, the thing is that if Paltrow was at fault here, then we do have some very clear injuries for Sanderson. Like, it's 100%, I think, that Sanderson was injured here to at least some degree. Like, he sustained a concussion and 4 broken ribs. And broken ribs would normally be worth money, right? There is money for that, right? But the question is, did he sustain the injuries to the extent that he is claiming is going to be another big one if they find that there was injuries here? So that is, I mean, that's sort of enough for Ramon here. Now we can move on and look at our other witness here. And we are getting to the big name. Oh, and I see incoming lawyer raid. Awesome. That is fantastic. So here we've got Mr. Sanderson. So we've got Laura M saying, yep, I know it's late.
Get comfortable and speak into the mic,
Get
okay?
the rest on replay.
All right.
Okay,
Could you state and spell your name for the record, please?
yes. My name is Terry, Terry, Howard, Howard, Sanderson, Sanderson.
Thank you. Now, Terry, this is the 5th day of trial. We started last Tuesday. You weren't here much last week, were you?
Not at all.
In the courtroom. Were you in the courthouse?
Yes, definitely.
Now, I don't know why they start with this. This seems like a bad place to start. I would have gone through some of the stuff to humanize this guy a little bit first. Then rather than just jumping right into the why weren't you there? I also just want to note that tie that he's wearing, I used to have exactly the same tie. I wore mine. In fact, it used to be my favorite tie. I wore it until it wore out. So I immediately liked his choice of tie because I had that same tie. And if I could get another one, I would. But yeah, I can't find one, but maybe maybe I should try to get it from him. I can't pay $3 million though. I just don't have that much money. So yeah, this is a weird place to start, right? Because everybody's going to be wondering about it, and now you're just kind of starting this guy off on this weird foot of maybe not being believable. They're actually starting out by maybe making this guy seem less credible right from the outset, which is the wrong place to do that. This is like the worst place to do this. You want to bury this stuff in the middle, not at the end, not at the beginning, definitely not right now because it's the beginning. Yeah.
May we approach? Sure.
And I don't know why they're having a sidebar here. Now here's the place where normally you would normally you'd stop and you'd just start off with questions like, can you introduce yourself to the jury? You know, what did you do for work? You know, this kind of thing. The stuff that makes you feel human, that makes you feel like an ordinary person that the jury can relate to and can hang out with. I mean, that's always where you want to start with your own witness. So I don't know why they're starting with, let's begin with your credibility problems. And especially because, as we'll see, his answer is not good. His answer, I think, is actually pretty bad. So all right. Hopefully people can hear me. That was weird. I just got kicked out for no freaking reason. So I'm back. Yeah, that was strange. Let's pull this back up. I'm glad it came right back up. That's what she said. And here we go.
I want to talk about skiing. Tell the jury about your ski experience. What type of ski?
Did I miss his answer there? Did Paltrow just crash into my stream? Or my stream crashed into Paltrow? We're going to have a lengthy bit of litigation on that. All right.
Terry, did you want to be here the last 4 days, last week, inside the courtroom?
I love spending time with my daughters and have them hear what they had to say. But in this case, I didn't want to be here because I wanted them to speak totally freely and without the discomfort of being in my presence if they had something to say.
Is that why you weren't here?
What a terrible answer. What a terrible, terrible answer. I wanted them to speak freely. Are you suggesting that they wouldn't speak freely if you were there? Are you suggesting that you have some sort of undue influence on them, which is a major issue here? Whoops. Like that, I was stunned. And this isn't the explanation we've heard up until now, right? The explanation we've heard is that this guy has like emotional dysregulation and is going to freak out if he hears people talking badly about him, that he's going to like be unable to handle it. And instead, no, he comes up with a completely different explanation now. It's not that he's got this emotional dysregulation and he can't handle hearing these criticisms of him, that he can't handle, any of this. Now, suddenly, he's saying, I want them to, I don't want them to be influenced by my presence. I mean, oof, right? you don't want your main witness to be contradicting other witnesses. And, you know, the thing is that for him to succeed, he actually needs his daughters to kind of talk bad about him. I don't know that he would be upset by it. And quite frankly, the interplay there with, you know, daughter saying like, sorry, dad, but this is the answer. You're kind of a jerk, might actually play well with the jury, just tactically. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
We're going to cut to the chase on a lot of things because I made counsel a promise that I would have you in less than an hour.
Wow.
And so
why would you make that promise? Also, that's what she said, but why would you make that promise? This is bizarre. This is your key witness. This is your key witness. And I see people saying that they're having trouble hearing me. I don't know how to fix that because I keep turning the audio volume down on the video. But yeah, I don't know why you would ever limit your critical witness. Like, this is your entire trial here. Now, I mean, maybe she knows that she just wants to get him off the stand as quickly as possible and that that's to her benefit. But this just seems weird.
I'm going to be true to my word here. It's 10 o'clock. We'll be done before 11. Okay. I want to talk about skiing. Tell the jury about your ski experience. What type of skier were you?
Now he's going to tell us that he's a great skier, and that's going to actually be confirmed by other people, right? So, and I see people saying that the YouTube video is so much louder than I am. Every time I turn, like, I've got the YouTube video turned way low, so I don't get why that's going on. I don't have a way to fix that, I don't think. So we're just going to have to live with it. That, I guess, is that. He's going to talk about how great of a skier he is, but there's a sort of interesting moment here. Oh, there's a great freeze frame. But there we go.
I give that excuse to when I how much did you weigh about?
Fully dressed, I was, or undressed, probably 62 pounds, 163, 162.
Okay, all right.
So we'll just look.
I give that excuse.
We'll just look a little bit
How
here.
tall are you?
I think I'm now 5'5".
Okay. And what was your weight at the time of the collision?
Well, in the VA, you don't take anything off. Whatever you walk in with, your coats, heavy coats in wintertime, boots.
We don't need to
I
hear
give
about
that
what you
excuse
take
to
off.
when I
So-
how much did you weigh about?
Fully dressed, I was, or undressed, probably 63, 62 pounds, 163, 162.
Okay, all right.
Now he says
So-
I was. So that's at the
The
time,
jury's heard
right?
about meetup groups. What is a meetup group?
A meetup group was just a lifesaver for me, being new to this area. Hard to accumulate friends. And so when a fellow that I was on a hike with, a new fellow, said, have you heard of meetup? And I hadn't. So he says, look it up and sign up. And I did. And it was a wonderful organization of groups of people where you had a shared interest, whether it was dancing or concerts or skiing. And so I signed up and joined some groups, and it was really a life changer.
Okay, so my understanding is the day of this ski collision, you were with kind of a group of people in the meetup group. Is that fair?
That's right.
All right.
I don't think I could do that. I see
Did the
people
group
saying,
have a plan? I mean, were you?
I see people saying that this lawyer's awful. I don't think she's awful. This is a style of cross-examination. I just don't think it's I don't think it's working all that well for a lot of people. And I think that the reason why it's not working all that well for a lot of people is that they're not liking this guy. I think that if you like this guy a little better, her style would work better. So that's my feeling on that.
The organizer of that meetup group that day?
No, I was not. I'd asked Kurt to take that over because I planned on being gone that day, and Kirk organized that.
Okay. It sounds like obviously you weren't gone that day. You ended up being able to make it.
I came back a little early from wherever I was and just said, "Oh, I'm going to go ski today." And
I came back a little early from wherever I was. He doesn't remember where he was, folks. Let's keep that in mind as we go. Doesn't remember where he was.
I happened to see on the list that day also was a lady that I had met when I first moved here, and she happened to be a ski instructor at Canyons, but she had been at Deer Valley as well. And so I called and said, "Debbie, I'm going to go. I'll pick you up." So I picked her up at Kimball Junction on the way and went there with her and dropped her off the skis. And we met the group, and I asked her if it'd be okay if she let our group out because she's very familiar with Deer Valley. And so she said yes and gave us the rules of the road. Would you like to hear that?
So the meetup group, you guys kind of.
So let's look at this.
Yes, and gave us the rules of the road. Would you like to hear that?
You see his expression here? This guy thinks he's the smartest man in the room. He thinks he is the smartest MF in the room. And, he's like, would you like to hear that? Because he's trying to take his counsel to the rules of the road. He thinks that he's running this show. And as counsel, I don't want my client trying to run the direct. I want to run the direct. I don't want this guy guiding things. But yeah, that little smirk as he's like, you see how I did this? You see how I brought this into the rules of the road? Don't like it. Do not like it. Now, I don't know if the jury will have caught this because it's a split second, right? But yeah, it's it seems like he thinks that he gets to run the show and that he gets to yeah. So all right, let's try to skip forward here a little bit.
Serious smack. Never been hit that hard, and I'm flying. I'm absolutely flying.
So he's got this
You're not
description.
airborne.
Well,
Whoop.
all I saw
Jumped
was,
ahead too far.
and I could see down where the edge of the run went. It curved around, a tree line came out a little bit, and
You
the
say
run
so.
curled around, and I could see about half of the, I don't know if it's a Montage or the Empire, could about half of that beautiful building, and it was wide open. There was nothing in front of me, and so I came around that corner, and it takes my breath away to think this is hard because I don't like going through this scene. I just remember everything was great, and then I heard something I've never heard at a ski resort, and that was a blood-curdling scream. Just, I can't do it. It was, and then, boom. And it was like somebody was out of control and gonna hit a tree and was gonna die. And that's what I had until I was hit.
That's what was going on in your mind.
Overruled?
Now, I actually thought that was a little strange because there's these weird language parallels that keep coming up. The blood curdling scream is one of these things. And it's interesting to see this, like where the language gets repeated. And, so like his Shay said that there was a blood curdling scream. And then she quickly corrected and she said, that's my language, not his. Right. And I'm going, where does this blood curdling scream come in if it's her language, but it's getting repeated by multiple people? That just seems really strange. This is a terrible freeze frame here because we've got Paltrow with that expression. I don't know what that's about. We've got this person in the back who's uh, that's some a stink face. We've got over here in the back corner, we've got that look of disbelief. And we've got this guy, yellow spotted tie. I don't like his tie. Yellow spotted tie, who we later learn is counsel for Deer Valley. So, yeah.
That's what's going on in your mind when you hear that scream.
That was instantaneous. Oh my gosh, somebody's out of control. And they're really seriously out of control. Not time for a hockey stick. I didn't go think about that, but
This is a good point here. Yes, everyone says she screamed except her, but the blood curdling language, specifically calling it blood curdling, is weird as to how that gets repeated and who it gets repeated by. So, yeah.
most people could avoid that, I think. Good skiers.
That's speculation.
Okay. And I'll move on.
Okay.
So you
All right.
I think he overruled. He's overruled.
thank you. So you hear this scream.
Yes.
What happens next?
You know, I got hit in my back so hard, and I'm right at my shoulder blades, and it felt like, and was perfectly centered, and the fists and the poles were right there at the bottom of my shoulder blades.
So he feels he remembers exactly
smack.
where that
Never
hit.
been hit that hard, and I'm flying. I'm absolutely flying.
Now you're not
He's
airborne.
flying.
Well, all I saw was a whole lot of snow, and I didn't see the sky, but I was flying in that sense. I had no control.
I was
And I
flying
remember
in that sense.
this thinking, okay, you really got to hang on. And then I thought about the crowd on the left, and I thought, I don't know who's wanted over there, and I do not want to get them mixed up in here. And I've heard, that maybe that's not decided about how my ribs really got hurt. I absolutely lurched what little I could
Now look at
off
all
of
the
my
details.
skis
This.
a little bit more to the right to make sure nobody over here got involved on my left side.
Now, I was really surprised by his testimony, like really surprised, because we've been hearing from all of these witnesses who've been prepping us to hear from a very particular version of this guy, right? A very particular version of Sanderson. And what we've been hearing is that this is a guy who can't regulate his emotions, can't listen to a question in order to respond to it appropriately, that he can't remember any of this, right? We've been hearing that from various people, that he can't remember. And, he just doesn't remember, can't remember. His experts have said that he can't remember, doesn't remember. So all we've got is Ramon and so forth. And I was kind of expecting a guy who would be getting up on the stand and would be kind of struggling to make sense, struggling to answer questions, would be getting upset, getting angry, getting frustrated, maybe having a little rage out, right? Because I've seen people who've suffered head traumas and have that emotional dysregulation, and they have those. Instead, what I encountered here is a guy who seems like he's got a recollection that is surprisingly good, surprisingly good, and to a degree that I think is actually unrealistically good, and also that he doesn't have any problems listening to the questions. He doesn't have any problems responding. There's no signs of emotional issues at all. I was surprised. And that isn't to say that this could not be the presentation of a guy with head trauma or a traumatic brain injury, because it absolutely could. The problem is that we have heard a very different story about who this guy was from every other witness who's been prepping us over and over and over again for this very particular view of how, they've been basically, kind of bracing us for get ready. You're going to meet the real, Terry Sanderson and what's, kind of what's been left of him after this accident. And instead, like, would you notice that there's an issue here? And again, that isn't to say that, he couldn't have a traumatic brain injury, but this is not what they were preparing us for. This is not what they were getting us ready for. And that is really odd at this point. I just kind of wonder what's going on about that. And I see people saying maybe he's confabulating. Maybe, but I mean, if he was confabulating, you would think that he would start telling the story differently, right? Because people who are confabulating tend to have a very difficult time telling the same story consistently. So I don't know. This seems like not what we were expecting here. And, again, that doesn't say that this couldn't be somebody who suffered a serious traumatic brain injury, but it's not what any of the experts told us he would look like. It's not what any of the, his family members told us he would look like. And we've heard that he was confused, that he was addled, that he didn't know his name. And yet he's going to have this weirdly perfect memory of a bunch of details. And it's going to be strange. Now, I can tell you, at one point when I was younger, I got hit with a rock and knocked out. Somebody literally just lobbed a rock at my skull and domed me. And I can tell you, I can remember the rock being thrown, and then that's it. And I wake up in like a nurse's bed. I don't remember any of that. And I walked there, right? They got me up and I walked to that, walked to the bed, and I don't remember any of it. This guy, on the other hand, has this perfectly clear memory. So it doesn't fit with my experience, but my experience, of course, isn't necessarily universal. So it's tough. Let's keep going.
And then it was like the ground's coming up. Nobody in front of me, just me going to the ground, and you're falling far further than 90 degrees like you fall on a floor. You got that extra. And so it's quite a ways to hit the ground. And I just said, okay, you got to protect your face, and your head. And that's the last thing I remember. It didn't happen. I did glance over and saw just out of the corner of my eye, I could see, not glance over, but I could see somebody going by, and I'm going, okay, they're safe. Last thing I remember, everything's black.
Did the person who struck you land on top of you?
I wouldn't know that. I absolutely would not know that. I was just surprised. I had no upper body strength enough to be able to catch myself. I had no idea.
So he doesn't know if somebody landed on top of him, but he remembers a bunch of other things. His memory is weirdly selective here, like weirdly selective.
Do you remember hitting your head on the ground?
No, that part, nope, that's all gone. I just remember my arms collapsing, and that's the last thing I remember.
What's the next thing you remember?
Now this
I'm
is
getting
where
an
things start to get
adrenaline rush
really
here, I
weird.
guess, living this again. Just being here and present too.
And let me just stop you really quick. You said you're getting an adrenaline rush. Is this something that you enjoy?
Adrenaline rush? Not this
No.
kind.
Yeah.
Not now.
Okay. All right. So what's the first thing that you remember? Or the next thing that you remember after
Well,
you're
Yes.
on the ground?
The first remember is everything is still black, like I'm unconscious, and
This is
but
weird.
it's like my subconscious is going into protection mode. Like, you better pay attention here and listen to what's being said to you. And all I could recognize was that someone was really angry at me, and it was a man, and it didn't come out clear in the beginning. I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but I just knew he was mad, and he was right above me, right close to me. And I'm feeling a little afraid, and I tried to move, and I could not move a limb. I couldn't move my head. I couldn't move my body. Nothing was responding. Just this message I was getting. And the next thing, it became a little more clear. And I heard him say, do you realize that you weren't skiing under the rules? You hit somebody, you hurt somebody.
So he's saying he's unconscious, but he's able to hear just this dude. And in fact, he specifically says that he can hear just this dude, but he doesn't hear Gwyneth Paltrow. And this is a problem because Gwyneth Paltrow says that she was swearing at him. And Ramon says that she was swearing at him. So the question is, like, how does he hear just this one voice? He's saying that this is this protective, thing in his subconscious. Now, I do criminal law, so I deal with situations where people have suffered traumatic brain injuries. Both my clients, who may have suffered traumatic brain injuries and been left with, lasting symptoms that make them have trouble navigating society in ways that can lead them to be clients, but also in terms of situations where my clients have hit somebody. Like, I had a guy I represented who quite literally his MO for robberies was knocking people out with, a blunt object as they were at the ATM and then taking their money. So this is you hear from people who've been knocked out. You hear from people, who this account of like, I was out, but I could only hear one thing, doesn't ring true to me because I've never heard anyone else describe this. I've never heard anyone else talk about this. And it's weird. It's strange, right? And he gets into this, he continues on and he starts articulating about all of these like sub processes that he has, right? So
And just insistent that I was the bad guy. And that's why I said, this has got to be a husband or boyfriend that's really mad at me. And I sound like a big...
Did you know who he was?
I had no idea. No idea. It was just a very angry person trying to bully me into believing something that I didn't think could happen, was I heard a woman's voice, right?
now, I mean, why would somebody be trying, like if he's passed out, why would somebody be trying to bully him into anything, right? If there's a dude who's passed out face down, I'm probably not yelling at them trying to convince them of something. But okay.
Again, couldn't move. And about the third time he went through that, and it's getting louder, and I started to understand what he was saying, and he was really insistent that I was doing something wrong and hit somebody. And I remember in desperation, because I couldn't move anything, I couldn't fight. I couldn't fight. Who's going to try? And I tried moving something, and I could move my skis a little bit. I could just feel just below my knee. I could just slide my skis a little bit. And that's an important point. My skis are still on. They're still on. And I'm thinking, I got to placate this guy. He's really mad. If he decided he wanted to jump on me right now, he could finish me off. I remember saying,
he could finish me off. I mean, that seems a little dramatic, right?
I'm sorry.
Okay, now you're
Twice.
you're whispering.
I know
that,
I am,
but
because
maybe,
that's what I heard. Nothing was coming out. My lips were moving. My tongue was moving. There was nothing coming out of my
If you're
mouth.
ever on the
And
stand,
my
don't
heart
do
rate went
this.
up again.
Like
Okay.
it
that
looked like
sort of
what you were
dramatic-
mouthing was, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And I was just going, I can't believe it. I thought, try again. I'm sorry. Nothing was coming out. And to me, I heard nothing.
When you kind of mumbled, whispered, whatever you want to call it, I'm sorry, was that you apologizing for causing the accident?
No, absolutely not. I was trying to placate this man in the only defensive manner that I could.
You've talked about the man who was yelling at you. Miss Paltrow last week admitted that she was kind of cussing you out as well. Do you remember any conversation that you had or anything that she said to you?
Absolutely not. There was one voice that my brain was focused on. Thank God, I guess. And that was self-protection, I guess.
Why
I only
thank
heard
God
a
for
male
one
voice,
voice?
a mad,
Like, that makes
angry
no
male
sense.
voice. I heard nothing. Maybe that happened before I came to that point in consciousness.
Were you still on the ground at this time?
Still on the ground, absolutely, face down
Okay.
on the ground.
How did you end up getting up?
Well, that's a story too, but basically, I heard Craig saying, "Terry, are you okay?"
Now, this is Craig Ramon.
Well, at that point, I didn't identify his voice. I just think.
So he gives this very detailed account, but his memory isn't perfect because he starts having memory failures every time it's inconvenient for him. And we're going to see that in the cross-examination, where every time there's an issue where, where he's getting pressed on something, then suddenly it's, oh, well, I got hit on the head, so I don't really know that well. But when it's, here where he's trying to establish liability here, suddenly it's perfection, right? So I'm not a big fan of this, but he's got a big problem, which is that he gets a brain screening and he nails it, right? He nails this brain screening because they ask him memory questions. He nails that. They look at his eyes to see if they're dilating, if they're the same, because that's a very common concussion sign. He nails that. He, later on, we're going to hear that he just, that he aced every assessment. But then he's got an explanation for it. And let's look at this explanation. And I just want to talk a little bit about this.
On my feet, my head's swimming. I'm in pain. I'm worried about falling down again and breaking a rib, puncturing a lung. He gets me up and I'm on the edge of the run. So it's bumpy. It's hard to get my skis under me and I'm stomping down the snow and trying to get them in a spot. Got my poles wedged in and I think I've got it in stability and he's gone. And this time I could see him. I could watch him go all the way down the hill. And I'm standing up, but am I feeling safe? No, people are going by, and I'm thinking, man, I do not want to get hit again.
My understanding is that you and Craig tried to ski down a little ways, but then didn't quite make it too far. Is that accurate?
Yeah, he said, "You think you can ski?" And I'm thinking, the option is getting left up here, I will try anything. I got to get off of here. So yes, he said, "Follow me," and I did. And I don't know how I was skiing. I don't think I was edging. I think I was probably snow plowing. And he finally turned around and said, Terry, stop. You've forgotten how to ski."
Now, this is almost word for word what Ramon testified to. It might actually be word for word what Ramon testified to. And that's weird. People don't usually quote each other like this. So, I mean, maybe he's just got a good memory for what exactly was said, and so does Ramon. But most people don't get that, exact. So, let's keep going.
And of course, it was just, we were trapped. And he said, "I got to find help."
Here.
Eventually, Craig got help, yes?
Yeah, he said, "I got to find help." And so he disappeared. And I just put my head down and prayed that I wouldn't get smacked into again. I felt pretty vulnerable. And he disappeared.
What happened when help arrived?
Whitney showed up and I was so grateful to see someone. And
Now, is that Whitney Smith?
Yes, that's her name. Mhm.
And the jury has seen pictures, and we're gonna put another picture up in just a couple minutes. Is she the one in a red jacket that there's a picture of in this case? Do you know?
Yes, as a matter of, yes, that's her. Mhm.
All right. So did she take you down on the toboggan, or how
Now
did
the
you
problem
get down?
for them is that
She
Whitney
did.
Smith is this guy's
She
hero
said,
now.
are you
and
okay?
she's not gonna
kind of
help
thing,
him out.
Oh, that's so good. I don't remember the conversation. It was a little easy stuff. And so got in, and I remember Whitney saying to me, now you got to remember these things because I'm going to ask you again later. And she told me that she was from Michigan, moved 5 years before, and had started on the ski patrol here 5 years before. She loved her job. Her name was Whitney, and that she had a horse named Titan that she wore in the years off. So she told me to remember those things. I'm going, this is a brain test. She's wanting to check if my brain's okay. And from that point on, I quit worrying about myself. I quit worrying about my injuries. It was just like, I'm going to remember this. I do not want to have any brain injuries. And I locked onto that and nothing else. And later on, she did ask me, and I could repeat it back to her exactly as she told me. And she won the women's downhill in the ski patrol women's competition.
Sounds like you still remember some of these details.
I was so determined to hang on to those facts. Yes.
So here's why they do these brain tests. Here's why they do these things. And it's not because it's a test of you don't want to, or you're not trying hard. It's a test of your function and ability to do these things, right? It's a test of what you can do. And everybody, it's not, the thing is if you've got a traumatic brain injury, you are suffering from deficits that are things you can't do, that you're just unable to do. And it can be really freaking tragic. Like I've done volunteering at, psych facilities. And if you talk to somebody who's got like Wernicke's or Broca's aphasia, there are people who very much want to communicate, but they just can't. And it's heartbreaking, right? They want more than anything. They want to be able to communicate with you. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. And it's not something that they're able to do anymore. And it's not like if they try real hard, suddenly it's going to work for them. I have myself been through a ton of neurological screening because I've got really serious attention deficit, like really serious. My scores on that are actually pretty miserable. Such that most people with my sorts of levels of attention deficit actually have, usually you find that in prison and not having a career and being a lawyer and doing all this stuff, right? I've been tremendously lucky to be able to succeed despite this. But you go in and you take some of these tests and they can be frustrating as hell because you're trying your absolute best to do something. And it might seem like something that is very simple and easy and not something that should be a challenge. And it still just breaks you, right? And it just, this easy, simple thing you just can't do at all. It's not for lack of trying. This whole notion of like, I tried real hard and therefore I was able to, like, no. This didn't just, ring false to me, but it also upset me in the sense that right now, Rick Hogue is recovering from, he's recovering from a stroke. He's got various things that are difficult for him to be doing, right? And that are difficult for him to manage. And it's not because he doesn't care enough to do it, folks. Like, it's because it's actually he's working his hardest at it and he's trying his best at it, and it's just difficult. So, what the hell, right? This kind of offends me on behalf of some close friends and also my own personal experience. So, yeah, it's frustrating to just hear this, right? To just hear this explanation, which I think is so facile and so so wrong, right? If you've got somebody who, like, why don't diabetics just like think harder about processing sugar? That's not how that works. So yeah, I did not like this. I found it to be very a very convenient explanation for something that is very difficult. And this, I think, made me wonder a lot about his brain issues, right? So that I did not like in the slightest. Because when he describes all these other problems, like it's not just laziness, right? It's not just all right. Let's
And
see his next sort of
depending, I don't
explanation.
know. She helped me a lot verbalize things because things weren't making sense at all in
All right.
communication, and she may have helped and participated in that.
Those details, are those the details that Whitney wanted you to memorize as you were taking down the toboggan? All right. Can you go back up to the emails? All right.
Yeah,
so you send that
that's a
out to your
fair
3 daughters.
thing.
I did, yes.
Okay. And Shay, who testified last week, she responded to you with the top post, correct?
Yes.
All right. Can you read what it says?
I can.
Actually, let's put the subject. Read what the subject says.
It says, "I'm famous at what cost?" ?
Do you know why Shay wrote that?
Well,
Do you know?
I think she may have called me. Did she? Right after this, and so
Speculation.
right.
Sustained.
Do you remember?
Yeah, this pisses me off a lot. I'm an EMT. I've done these tests on folks immediately after a TBI. They can't recall despite desperately trying. No amount of effort works. Yep. That's how that goes, right?
I'm pretty certain that she checked in on me and made a phone call. And
Do you remember what you told her during the phone call?
yeah, I had a chance to talk about my symptoms exactly, I think. And that I said, as many people that were on that slope that day, maybe a couple hundred within that vicinity, there has to be a GoPro picture or video. If it's a helmet mount, they're going to look over just like Craig did, right? And they're going to go catch it. They hear a holler, they're going to catch it. I'm going, I just know there's one out there. We got to find that. That is the evidence we need. And
all right, that's sort of our first thing here, right? We've just heard that. Now I'm going to bring up something else I've got here. This is actually one of my own shorts. We're going to bring that up and we're going to just watch that through together, because I think that, this short, which captures a key bit of his daughter's testimony, Shay's testimony, I think is very relevant here. So let me just pull that up here. Right now in the Paltrow lawsuit, one of the huge issues is going to be now I got to actually get that shared. All right, so give me a second here. I'm just struggling with technology. Just going to pull that up. The Paltrow lawsuit, one of the huge issues is going to be the GoPro footage. Does it exist? What happened to it? Where did it go? And why? And if the jury doesn't buy this story, I think Sanderson is done.
Dad, I cannot believe how unlucky and how crazy this all is. I also can't believe this is all on GoPro. What are the chances? I am so glad you're okay. How are you feeling this evening? Love, Shay. And so he said there has to be GoPro footage. There just has to be, because there was this big blood-curdling scream before I got hit in the back, and that means that a person that had a helmet cam of this GoPro would look towards the scream and catch it all on video. And so I thought, that's brilliant. You know, then we have complete evidence of what happened and who was at fault.
So they both have the same, like, this is kind of weird, right? That it's just so parallel. And you see the blood curdling scream repeats there. We've got the, like, to me, this just seems so, this does not ring true to me at all, right? And I think if you just, like, even if you, this is too freaking close. And what I mean by that is that one of the reasons why I tell people not to talk to the police is that you will not get your story the same, even retelling it on 2 back-to-back days. If you go in on Saturday and you tell the cops your story, and then you go in on Sunday and you tell your story again, your 2 stories will not match. They just can't. Your memory is not that good. They sounded almost like they really sounded like they were close to word for word, right? They sounded so close, and there was that blood-curdling scream language, which was really the only addition. And like, this feels like they all have been sitting together at a table going over this. That's what it feels like to me. And it feels to me like this is rehearsed testimony. And if I'm on that jury, I am going, you kidding me? Like, how dumb do you think we are? And this is a problem that smart people often have. If you've got smart people, they often can get kind of contemptuous and kind of, you know, they can get to like where they think they're the smartest person in the room, and that they are going to be able to outwit other people. And often they don't realize that the court process it's hard mode for outwitting people and for deception or anything like that. And that's intentional, right? We make that hard for a reason. So this is what that feels like. This, to me, does not feel like an honest recounting. It feels rehearsed. It feels icky, really. So I did not like this at all, and I thought that was going to be a bit of a problem. I think it's going to be a problem for him in front of a jury. Just and I said in my short, I said basically they need to explain this or else Sanderson loses, right? They need a good explanation that is believable, or else the jury's going to have a real problem with him. And I don't think that the jury is going to be buying that. I think the jury is going to be going, I don't believe this story about the GoPro footage at all, right? Especially because, you know, it says like, I can't believe it's on GoPro. You don't say that if it's hypothetical, right? Like, I can't believe you won the lottery. Well, I said that because you bought a ticket and it could be the winner. No, right? It just makes no sense.
And that happened a second time.
Had that ever happened to you before this ski collision?
I've never been so needing maps. And so I'm pretty sure I've lost visual memory.
Yeah,
because it doesn't, knowing those turns and the houses where you turn, the streets you turn at, that feels like, and I know a little bit about that, that feels like a deficit I have, I don't retain that anymore. I can be there a dozen times and I still have to use maps to make sure I get there. Really odd.
What
I mean,
about
lots of people have to
emotional,
do that.
Terry? How are your relationships with your family and friends since the ski accident?
You know, my interaction with my family has been more difficult. And I think of course, I'm desperately to be close to my family and my girls, but something's wrong in my essence and what I bring to the table with them. And communication is not as smooth, and it's been more difficult, no question. And they've told me they've noticed some changes. Yeah.
Now,
They've told me they've noticed some changes. I mean, what we've been hearing thus far is that everything that has been going on in his life has been a complete disaster because of these injuries, right? That is, everything has been blown up because of these injuries. And now he's saying, well, they've noticed some changes. And I'm going to tell you, like, part of my attention deficit is social difficulties. I miscue. And what I mean by that is, like, I fail to read people. I get the emotions wrong. I sometimes have situations where I'm like compelled to speak and maybe I shouldn't, where it's hard to regulate those kinds of things. All of these difficulties in terms of dealing with people are very familiar to me, right? I understand. I've had to work really hard at being able to just manage people. That's sort of one of the critical things about this. But I deal with that kind of issue. I'm not feeling it from him, right? And I'm not feeling like, I'm sorry. If you came to where I have been in terms of those difficulties dealing with people, from not having that, I don't think you'd be able to deliver this as calmly as he is and as casually as he is, because it's been the tragedy of my life several times over. So, and I feel like I'm sort of dialing back here because I can feel sort of emotion welling up. I am just like, sorry, man, I don't buy it the way you're saying it. It's not vibing with my experience here. And I don't think you understand how serious what you're talking about is. Like, I don't think you understand how serious of a deficit what you're talking about is and how profound it is. So, yeah, I mean, he just drops that casually like it's nothing. It's not nothing, dude. Like, this it doesn't feel right to me, because this is like somebody, it's like if you're saying somebody's just like, hey, my arm just got torn off, no biggie. It's like, no, this is, if you can't relate to people, that's everything, right? And I have to do that through a tremendous amount of effort, and I couldn't do it through much of my life. And it absolutely, like, it almost destroyed me. So don't like this at all.
I didn't know you before. The jury didn't know you before. What kind of relationships did you have with your girls before this crash?
My goals are always angels. I'm their protector. Some things happened to them. I'm testifying that I heard about it. It hurts to see them in that place as their protector. I rode home with them, sort of sobbing, so I get caught up in that.
Do you love your girls?
Oh my gosh.
There's been some discussion about your relationship with Jenny and that it's not always optimal. From your perspective, what is your relationship like with Jenny? And how has it been even before this accident?
I want to hear from Jenny
Yeah,
so bad.
Jenny and I probably don't communicate as well as I do with my other two daughters. Not probably, definitely we don't. Just have a hard time in that process, and I will not give up. I try to push to keep those lines open, but there's been times when there's been long breaches in our conversation. And I feel like her protector more than anybody does. So it's been harder for me to transition from being a parent to being an adult, an equal adult. I just feel like I need to intervene more on her behalf and help her. It's been hard.
Let's talk about Carlene. We heard her testify last week. She's a
You know what? I will give him some credit because he's the first person of that family to not throw Jenny under the bus. I'll give him points for that because I really didn't like how his sisters treated Jenny in their comments. But he just says, hey, I'll give him some points for taking some responsibility on that because none of the sisters did, the other daughters.
catch. Why'd you let her go?
In my choice, I wouldn't have, but I had to, after 8 months, I had to tell her to leave. I said, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, you got to leave. And
Why'd you tell her to leave?
I knew she didn't buy into this. She didn't buy in to me not being the same person and coming into a relationship. And I said, I'm not sure I'm going to get back to normal again. And I don't want you to feel like that I'm a crippled vet and you're going to stick it out with me, because I know you would. Half a brain or whatever. I know you would, but don't do it. You need your life. You run right now. And it was a sad time for both of us, I know. And
now, I don't know. I don't know if there's a slip here or because it feels like the she didn't buy into this is a weird slip, right? It seems like that might indicate she didn't buy my story. Or she didn't buy into the lawsuit. That's a maybe, right? I don't know. It could be that he's saying she didn't sign up for like dealing with me, right? I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one and take this as she didn't sign up for dealing with me and this sort of stuff, right? We're going to give him that benefit of the doubt. It might be too generous, but we're going to do it because I think we should give him sort of as much credit as we can here. All right. Then it gets a little weird, and I'm going to skip ahead because we don't want to cover everything that gets said, but there's some parts that I thought were really difficult there. And this, I think, is a fair statement of where I'm coming in on this one. This part sucked for me to watch because there isn't a correct way to explain these feelings. If they're genuine or faked, it's hard to analyze every word from the outside. It is, right? I'm not putting a whole lot of anything on this one because I just don't know, right? So I don't know. And I actually feel like the emotion is genuine here, but I don't know if the emotion is connected to what he's saying or if the emotion is connected to something else. Yeah. But now we'll look at sort of the next bit here that I think is really concerning.
Have you still traveled?
It's going to take us a moment because I don't have exact timestamps here.
as part of the problem, just easily confused about things. So I usually request having somebody else along. Also because of this funny aberrant foot thing, wanting to go its own way. I don't feel as safe. And then also, things would happen. Like I put the wrong get their name spelled wrong, and important flight tickets and the birth date, which I should know. So it was difficult, and I really wanted someone to go with me. I didn't feel as secure in traveling alone.
Have you traveled alone since the ski accident?
I have not. I had one time when a friend, one friend, there's actually two, but I had one friend when we had planned a trip to Europe, a physician's assistant and my yoga instructor. And she decided right before the trip, Terry, I don't like you anymore. I don't know what's different. You're a different person. I don't like you anymore. And canceled her.
How'd that make you feel?
It was like, oh my gosh, I'd known her as long, and one other one as well, as long as I've lived here, almost 5 years, I'm guessing, at that time. And it's like personality, like that's something that develops from the time you're a child. What do you do about a personality issue? Something's changed. I don't know, more aggressive. And you know what? That lady will not answer her phone or texts. And I have.
Well, we're not going to say her name on
No,
this big
we are
broadcast,
not.
so
We
we're
are
not
not.
gonna, we're not going to
She's
go
a
there.
lovely lady. Yes, she is.
Our plaintiff counsel here gets huge points. He wasn't about to say her name. He was not about to say her name. He was just going to continue going on about how he was calling and texting and she's not answering, and he's continuing to call and text and call and text and call and text when she's not wanting any contact with him. And she's interrupting that because she does not want that out, right? Because that's creepy, right? That's creepy behavior. And the thing is that might actually be a symptom of a TBI, right? Maybe this guy has suffered a serious TBI and he's unable to handle these kinds of issues. And I see somebody, we don't have the option for closed caption, I'm afraid. Sorry, somebody was asking. So that might be a symptom, right? That might be, but it's also going to absolutely turn the jury against him, right? And I feel like that's where this was going, right? But I mean, this could be a sign of an actual brain injury. Somebody who's unable to regulate that kind of thought, where they're like, hey, I should text this person, and they do, and, but you're unable to give that up. That could be a brain injury sign, or it could just be that we've heard that he's sort of always been obsessive and driven and so forth. I don't know, right? I don't know what's going on, but I'm wondering, like, I might have called the yoga instructor, right? I might have called this person to say, hey, here's why I stopped talking to him. Because even if that person hates him now and comes in and says, like, oh yeah, that Sanderson guy is a total dirtbag. I don't know what happened. He used to be great, and then he became a total dirtbag, and I hate him. Fantastic, right? As the plaintiffs, fantastique. Because at that point, you're able to say, look how things changed, right? He used to be great, and now, and this person who says that they loved him through his entire life hates him now, right? Awesome. Wonderful. Before and after. Great. Yeah. And then defense counsel makes what I consider to be a giant unforced error. And we'll watch that right now.
Have your other friendships been affected as well?
Yes. Another lady that I knew for quite some time, a sweetheart, also a woman. We just got off kilter a little bit. Well, after I told Carlene she had to run, it was a few weeks later, I couldn't realize how lonely I was. Yes, I should have taken more time to absorb that, but I was so lonely because we were together all the time. So I reached out to her, and we spent a couple of activities together, and I couldn't believe the words that came out of her mouth. She said, Terry?
It is hearsay, so you can't testify as to what she said. But how did it make you feel?
Well,
Why would you interrupt him there? Why? You can see where he's going, right? He's like, I was lonely. I started talking to this person. This, that. And then she started saying something bad about him. I want to hear this person, especially this female person. I want to hear what they have to say about him, because I'm going to bet that was something creepy, and that I would want to drop that in front of I'd want to drop that in front of a jury if I possibly could. Right. I think defense counsel screwed up here. Sure. And you know what? You saw that plaintiff's counsel here. She's like, yeah, no, that's hearsay. Move on. Stop telling. Plaintiff's counsel's smarter at this moment than defense counsel. Plaintiff's counsel has been handling this part, like this aspect, super well. I know a lot of people have been critical of her. Fan-freaking-tastic work keeping this crap away from the jury. I just think she did an amazing job here, and that defense counsel dropped the ball, right? And I think that the aspect of there's these two women who appear to have found him creepy is kind of a big deal there, right? I would have wanted that to come out. And I see people are noting I've got another image with the tongue out. So now we've got Owens and Sanderson sticking tongues out at each other. What's with you pausing people with their tongues out? It's purely accidental, but also hilarious. So, but yeah, it's weird, right? Why wouldn't you want to get that out? I thought defense counsel screwed up here. All right, let's sort of.
it made me feel like, what's wrong with me, and how do I fix my personality? How do I fix it? I'm a different person. It's a very complex issue. And I lose self-confidence. The person I am, I'm going, what happened?
Terry, are you trying to improve yourself?
I've been in denial. I've been in denial about my issue. I refuse to believe I have brain issues.
I've been in
just done
denial, but I'm
everything
watching
I
a
can.
$3
I
million
knew I had a
lawsuit
critical
about it.
window to restore stuff, and I did everything I was told and everything I could find out about trying to get those neurons reconfigured in a good way. And I haven't found it's helped. So I'm still in denial. I keep thinking there's got to be something.
Are you trying to improve yourself?
Yes, I don't want to have brain issues. I'm trying to prove I don't have it. Everything I do, I'm trying to prove I don't have that wrong with me.
Now, note, he says that it hasn't helped. So I saw somebody was saying that he testified about, what is it? That he was improved. He says that he hasn't. So, yeah. See, by the way, the tongue jut pause game isn't as much an Ian phenomenon. Go back and watch after the end of every question of several witnesses. Lots of self-soothing corrective behaviors. There's been a lot of tongue action during this. So it's just been weird. Nobody can keep their tongue in their mouth, which is where it belongs unless you're using it for other things. And we're not going to get into that. All right. So then there's this really weird exchange here. And this is kind of inappropriate and also kind of hilarious at the same time.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't involved in that. I wasn't even your lawyer at the time. Was the press conference your idea?
Absolutely not.
Do you know why the press conference was held?
Your Honor, is he waiving his attorney-client privilege? Because if he is, I'm gonna drive a bus through that.
What's the objection, counsel?
So let's talk about this little moment here. Is he waiving his attorney-client privilege? Because if he is, I'm going to drive a bus through that. Two things. First, you wait for him to actually answer the question, because then you can ask that the court rule that in fact he has waived attorney-client privilege, and that, you know, so you ask for that after he's actually done the thing. That I think is the moment you would have waited for. I think the defense counsel jumped the gun there, but you know, it's I'm sorry, that's inappropriate, right? To make that comment in front of the jury, that's inappropriate as all heck. But it's funny. It's funny as all heck too. So yeah, I was a little stunned by that. Let's have a look at this. Let's you know.
Is he waiving his attorney-client privilege? Because if he is, I'm gonna drive a bus through that.
What's the objection, counsel?
He just violated his own attorney-client privilege, whose idea it was.
Objections overruled as to relevance.
Thing is he hadn't yet. The question was asked. He hadn't answered it. He just said it wasn't my idea. But he didn't say whose idea it was. You wait for it, because and then you wait and get him saying, that was my lawyer's idea. My lawyer told me to do that. And then you go in, right? So I'm going to capture this. I'm just recording. I'm just taking a second here to write this down. This is at 3:29. And the reason why I'm writing this down is that I'm going to add that I'm going to drive a bus through this to my soundboard, because that is the funniest thing ever. So you'll be hearing that on streams later when I'm like, hey, he's going to drive, or is he waiving his attorney-client privilege? Because if he is, I'm going to drive a bus through that. That'll show up. So it'll go with such great sounds as, you know, let's see, where's a good one here? Oh, I know. So it's going to go on there with the bonk, because that was just exceptional. And I see somebody's asking why the mask. He says he's got a cold, so that's why he's wearing the mask. He doesn't wear it very consistently, but yeah. All right, let's have a look. I mean, I thought that was worth talking about. And then we get into impeachment, and because we get into the cross-examination here.
Paltrow.
Absolutely not. I swear to my God and my family and my other Father in heaven, it's like, no, I did not.
Terry, did you cause the ski collision with Miss Paltrow?
Absolutely not.
Hey, Hollywood
I swear
attorney.
to my God and my family and my other Father in heaven, it's like,
I actually
no,
watch your stuff, so I like your channel.
Why did you bring this lawsuit?
Let's talk sometime, because
Strike
I like your
religious
stuff.
oaths here.
Sustained.
Why did
I'll
you bring
shoot you a
this?
Twitter message.
Disregard the last part of the last response.
Why did you bring this lawsuit?
You know, I realized after a period of time that no one believed how serious my injuries were. Just because I wasn't out and interacting continuously didn't mean there was something getting wrong with me. I really, really wanted an opportunity. I knew there was damages, and then there was lots of insults added to that singular incident. Lots of insults along the way, dozen of other times where everything went contrary to my value system. And
Who
I
insulted
just
him?
went, you know what? My daddy would say, if you got the truth, you bring the truth. Don't let anybody back you down. And that's what I felt I needed to do. And I'm here to prove that truth. Only with facts.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Orman. Mr. Owens?
That just seems weird, right? The like the whole thing about like these insults, it's weird to me, but yeah. And I think this is worth noting here. Owens has no regard for the court/judge. He's very rude. I wonder if he was a spoiled child. I think he's really burning a lot of his I think he's really burning a lot of his credibility. All right. Let's see. The next sort of thing I want to capture is right pretty close here.
So I caught a cold, so I'm kind of keeping my distance.
Owens is going to come in hot, and I'm kind of here for it, to be honest.
That little microphone that moves? Oh, there it is. Thank you.
He's going to come in hot, and you don't always want to do that on a cross, but I think he does fairly well coming in spicy.
Sorry, I'm going to be wiping my nose a little. And with this climate and dry air, I might have a bloody nose.
Yes.
Why is he discussing his nose? Yeah.
All right, let's talk about a few things.
I like that intro because sometimes you're trying to figure out how to like start up. And I mean, I often, when I'm beginning my cross-examination, you're trying to introduce things, right? So I often say something like, well, I've heard your direct examination. I just have a few questions for you, right? Here he's going, let's talk about some things, but we'll do a swoop here. Swoop for cross-examination.
So we're not going to get done with you today because we have witnesses this afternoon, but I think we can go till noon. Is that all right with you?
Yes, sure.
Is that all right with you? There is no correct answer to that. It's either yes and you're getting cross-examined, or no and you're getting cross-examined and you're whiny.
Did you ever say to me?
No one's going to win a whiny off with Owens. Fingers out of your nose, sir. You are on camera on a nationally televised trial.
I wrote, I'm famous because it's cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Was that your thinking at the time? And you said yes. Do you deny it?
Not if you have it on record. No, I don't deny it. I don't remember it. But
Well, let's go to page 15. Can you bring that up? Move to publish the deposition.
Your Honor, he said he doesn't deny it, so why are we publishing?
Because he earlier denied it.
I'll overrule the objection and permit that portion of the deposition to be published.
May I ask when this happened?
Sure. Like 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, you told this jury, I've never thought it was cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Do you recall that?
Yes, I guess I did say that. Absolutely.
And that's not a true statement, is it?
I just want to point out that Sanderson starts off accidentally helping impeach himself. Can I ask when you said that? And he's like, and Owens is just like, wow, it's freaking Christmas today. Do you remember you did this like an hour ago? This is what you said. He just gives Owens the lead up to smack him. It's yeah. I see Owens is legit going to tank his client's otherwise pretty good case. I don't think he's tanked it. I don't think he's gotten there. And I say this because when I look at like polls of the trial watchers, it is very consistently in favor of Paltrow. Very consistently. And you guys aren't necessarily any different than the jury here. I think Owens is lucky that he's got all the cards here because he's playing them terribly, but he's still in a position where he just is struggling to lose, right? He's just unable to lose because he's got some of the better facts to play with. So, it's like an idiot playing chess, but they've got all queens. So,
You have said this in your deposition, true?
Honestly, I don't ever remember saying it,
Bring it up
but
whenever you
but
can.
I don't doubt you. I misspeak a lot.
I misspeak a lot is a terrible way to start
this
across.
is page 15, line.
He is like a minute into his cross-examination, and he's already basically saying, I am a terrible witness. Owens is not a great lawyer, but holy crap, is that a great result in the cross, right? You're a minute in, and the guy is basically backed away from the notion that he should be believed as a witness in general, like at all. Whew. Yeah, that's fantastic for defense here.
5 through 8. So the words "I'm famous," this is my question, seem to say, I think it's cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Was that your thinking at the time? And your answer was yes. I guess, yes. Now let's go to your weight. You testified today that you were 163 and 5'5", true?
Yes, I did.
And do you agree that at your deposition, you told me you were 175 to 180 and 5'8"? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Qualified, yes.
Qualified.
No, I don't want to qualify.
I can't
Did you
answer
tell
it.
me that? Like
you
I
might.
said, how much do you weigh? And you said 175, 80. How much did you weigh? And then you said 5'8". How high are you? How tall are you? 3 inches different, right?
I just found that out. I didn't realize. I've had
Sir,
people telling me that.
You
honestly.
told this jury that at the time of the accident, you were 163 and 5'5". Did you not, like 2 hours ago?
I did, yes. Yes.
But you told me in your deposition years ago that you were 170 to 180 and 5'8". True?
How many years ago did we do this?
3 years ago.
I've lost a lot of weight. I'm down to my usual weight.
You know we're interested not now in your weight today. We're interested in your weight on the day.
Thank you. I knew where that was
Do you
going.
agree you were 5'8"?
Yes.
Have you shrunk 3 inches?
I couldn't believe it either. I wanted to argue because I think I'm 5'8" yet.
You do have degenerative back disease,
I
and
didn't-
those
I didn't-
discs are
I've always
getting squeezed. Is that why?
I have to say yes. I've always been 5'8.5", and I knew I shrunk a half an inch, but wow.
Mr. Sanderson, we're trying in council, let's not speak on top
Thank
of
you.
one another so
Thank
that
you.
we have a clear, clean record.
Now I'm just going to say, I do criminal defense, right? And in criminal defense, you are often trying to bust a witness, right? You've often got a witness who is fatal to your case, and you need to break them in the sense of like destroying their credibility. You need to get them to a place where the jury or the judge or whoever's hearing it does not believe this person. And one of my favorite things to hear, just absolute favorite things to hear, is when a witness is saying something like, I couldn't believe it either. Wow, about their own testimony, right? So that's fantastic. And I see lots of people saying, yes, guys exaggerate their height. I'm sure that every woman here who's ever been on like an online dating site has run into guys who are saying, hey, I'm taller than I am. You don't do that in court. Like, court is not an online dating site. You can't add an inch to any dimension. So even if you're adding inches in whatever direction on your online dating profile, you don't do it in court or under a deposition. So yeah, and then we're getting to like, he gets stuck in a really bad spot here because with this 3 inches difference thing, he's now got a problem because nobody really believes that there's going to be a 3 inches height difference in 3 years, right? That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This guy's like the incredible shrinking man, and it defies belief. But then the defense lawyer gives him a choice. It's, are you a lying sack of crap is one option. And then the other option is, hey, if you're not a lying sack of crap, maybe your issue is that actually you have some serious medical condition that is pre-existing and completely not caused by Gwyneth Paltrow that says that you are, is also on the go. And he latches on to the life preserver that defense throws him to say, oh, yes, I've got this like degenerative spine condition. Pro tip, if the other side's lawyers are throwing you a life preserver, it is actually packed with explosives. Like, they're not there trying to help you out. They're there trying to lead you into an entirely different trap. But yeah, when you end up with the whole thing of like a witness going, I couldn't believe it either. They're full of it, right? And you've got them in that territory where they're lying and they know that they've been busted. They know that they are caught and they are now panicky. So that is my favorite place to have a witness. And he walks into it in like 5 minutes. It's so bizarre. All right. So let's skip forward a little bit because he says some other weird things and we want to cover more of them, but we don't want to just watch the whole thing because you guys watched it before. I think lots of people are watching it with Alita or Emily D. Baker or, I don't know who else is covering it. So, yeah.
Is that your opinion?
I never would have said that. I knew where it came from.
You sued Deer Valley in this claim, true?
Yes, yes.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance?
Sustained.
Rob is
And we're
being
not
very
dealing
kind,
with
but he's
any of
also
that
lying.
today. True? We're not dealing with
My height actually
Relevance,
does
move to
vary.
strike.
It doesn't vary 3
Sustained.
inches.
The question is stricken and the jury should disregard.
So, Your Honor, I just want to be able to ask if you're willing, is you're not suing Deer Valley today?
Your Honor, objection, third objection now, move to strike again.
Sustained, stricken,
Okay.
disregard, please.
Sustained, stricken, disregard, counsel. Like they really, really want the jury to hear this. And the thing is that they've successfully hammered this out on a number of occasions. There is no way the jury doesn't know at this point that there was a lawsuit against Deer Valley and that it got thrown out. So, yeah.
I hear you saying you were flying through the air after she hit you. Did you say those words? Yes
Today?
Yes or no?
Today?
Today.
Today I did.
With regard to relationships prior, you had 2 divorces, true?
I did, yes.
And then was it about 10 years of just dating various different other women?
Yeah, I'd be looking at
Yes,
hitting
I
it with
wouldn't know
something.
exactly. Wouldn't be unreasonable, maybe.
Well, I'm just saying if the incident occurred in 2016, when was your second divorce? About 10 years
30
earlier.
ago.
I'm just going to note
I'm
my wife
thinking
is taller than
30
I am,
years ago, I'm
and
thinking.
that's
Yeah.
not a problem.
All right. So, I mean, it's nice that Carlene, you'd found a nice partner, but you were not engaged. Is that true?
We were not.
And
That's
she
what we
was
had.
actually living hundreds of miles away from you.
We went back and forth. It's 3 hours, 4 hours maybe, the most.
A couple hundred miles, I think, isn't it?
I don't know.
St. George.
He's establishing that it was a long distance
We'll
relationship,
move
and
on.
therefore
Thank
is
you.
a little tenuous. Long distance relationships fail all the time.
Do you recall saying that you agreed that saying I'm famous was a crazy thing to say? Agree?
Absolutely, it's not me. I don't buy into that.
But it was you, right? Just to be
Right.
clear. When you say it wasn't me, it was in fact you.
It's the other personality that's inhabiting my body right now.
And you blame Gwyneth Paltrow for that.
Yes, no question.
Do you recall having
Let's just go back here and
Yes, no question.
you see that expression? You see that expression of like, really? Really? I get what he's trying to say, right? He's trying to say that his personality's changed. It was really a bad way to say it, because now you've got a bunch of people, possibly somebody in the jury going, did he just say he's got a second personality? And if so, they might be making a face like this person here. The what the F face that is going on right here. That is not what you want. And all it takes is one person on the jury to make that what the F face. And it can be so hard to, to recover from that. I think what he means is just that his personality has changed and that, it's strange to him and so forth. That would be fair, but it's a bad choice of words. And the other thing I always notice is compare somebody's demeanor on direct versus cross. Evasive witnesses tend to have this thing where they just change personality. Sometimes you can watch them like change their posture when you get up to cross-examine them. And that's usually a pretty good sign that witness is going to be sketchy. Also, we are past the 2-hour mark, and therefore we are now in the spicy zone. We can say what we want because the the YouTube gods are no longer listening. So I don't think that was a great moment on Cross, but there's other moments where he just struggles. Yeah.
she grew up in Michigan, that she's won the Deer Valley Collision or the Deer Valley Grand whatever race, right?
That's right.
All right.
She doesn't know that.
Do you think Carlene was present at the Deer Valley Clinic?
I know she wasn't at the Deer Valley Clinic. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, it was when we
I
got
may have
home.
misunderstood.
She was on her way.
Do you remember Carlene didn't buy into this? Was that your quotes in terms of your, did you say those words just like an hour or two ago?
Carlene didn't buy into what, Mr. Owens?
Do you remember saying those words? She wasn't buying into this.
What was the question?
It was why your relationship with her deteriorated after the collision.
I misspoke. I absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand the.
Okay. To be clear on that issue, and I realize I'm jumping around, but I'm keeping an eye on.
Let's go back and see this.
Okay. To be clear on that issue,
Watch
and I
the
realize
mouth.
I'm jumping around, but I'm keeping an eye on the clock.
Watch the mouth.
To be clear on that issue, and I realize I'm jumping around, but I'm keeping an eye on the clock. Did you?
Sanderson really doesn't like that. I misspoke, and you can hear his brain like if you've ever heard like a chainsaw that's not in gear, you can hear him struggling, and you can hear it. And that sort of thing where like he looks like a literal snake there. He looks like a literal, and it's because he's freaking out, right? That he does not like that he said that. And he's like, I said what? Now, I don't know. This could be a nothing burger. As I said at the time, it could be that it's just an inarticulate phrasing. But I mean, he did not handle it well on cross-examination. And that's a problem. That didn't do well for him.
With regard to Carlene, it sounds like you shut it down. You shut the relationship down. Is that true?
I made a very strong statement that she was going to be better off without me. Yes.
And you told her that?
Yes.
So Carlene was here a couple days ago and said, he never told me. Did you tell her? I had no idea why.
I told her what I said. What I thought I said was, Carlene, you got to run. I don't want you stuck with me. And I know you would stay by me. I know she would.
So then you started calling your daughters, it sounds like, even before the I'm famous thing. Is that true?
I don't remember that, honestly.
Shay said she took a call from you about 6 something.
Okay.
So about 6 hours later.
Okay.
Have you ever read her depositions,
No,
by the way, or Jenny's?
I told him I wouldn't.
Okay. And they had even expressed like, hey, Dad, we're kind of concerned because we got to talk about you and how you were growing up and things. And we're kind of concerned that it will hurt your feelings. Do you recall this?
I didn't know why, but I don't remember them telling me that. I decided that before.
All right. So
Now, I'm just going to note here that there's a real problem that he's got, which is that he's got this real issue where he contradicts so many of his own witnesses. He says things that don't match up with what Ramon said. He says things that don't match up with what Carlene says. He says things that don't match up with what his experts say, in terms of like his memory and so forth. He says things that don't. Every other witness that you have on the stand has some sort of direct conflict with him in terms of their testimony. And that's not a great place to be. You want to be consistent with all your other witnesses there. So, it's this is a bad spot for him to be in. All right, so he keeps going for a while here, and they're gonna bring him back. He's not done with his depo. He's sort of partway through because they're going to have more to say about this guy. All right, let's look at some super chats here because otherwise I'm going to get way behind. And so, yes. And we'll do a swoop here because we're moving on. And I interrupted myself there, but I'm sure everyone figures that out. All right. Why didn't 320.271 of the criminal code apply in the case I just covered? You can check that out. It's another video that I just put up. He operated in the car in the past 3 hours, and the police seemed to have suspicion of alcohol. I don't think it was in effect at the time. I'm not sure, but they didn't rely on that section. That was not the, they applied a different section to that. So that doesn't help them here. Also, they said it was just a random stop. So not any suspicion until they stopped him. Jesse Charles, thank you for the membership there. Annette Dupras, can you explain Canadian sorry law. So this is provincial law, and it differs from province to province. But there's one in Ontario. I know there's one here in Alberta. And here in Alberta, it basically says that essentially, if you say sorry, and they sort of define it as like an apology or a statement of regret or remorse or something like that, that this is in civil cases, not in criminal cases. So this is also important, that it cannot be taken as a sign that you have committed the offense, and also that it's inadmissible. So the reason why this was a big deal is that Canadians say sorry all the time. And before these laws started to get pushed through, it could actually be really, really detrimental to your case. Because let's say you get into a car accident and you hit a cyclist, right? And this cyclist is curled up in a pretzel because it does not go well when you are the cyclist in a cyclist versus motor vehicle collision. And this person is sitting there, they're groaning, they're, screaming, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And you don't mean I'm so sorry because I was at fault. You mean I'm so sorry because you are injured and clearly suffering. And, it might actually be the case that the cyclist is at fault. So that is something to be aware of. So the sorry doesn't actually get held against you, at least here in Alberta. So what is it? And come on, Canada has actual laws governing the use of sorry because you say it is verbal diarrhea. Canada isn't even real. Yes, absolutely. We do, at least here in Alberta. So straight up, that's the law. It's written into the Alberta Evidence Act. Christensen Investigations, thank you very much for the membership. Much appreciated. Friday, TS is so traumatized he couldn't be in court to hear the details, but his lawyers offered him up to reenact his trauma, and he jumped up so fast. That was weird, where they had him up there and they were saying like, hey, come on up here and be part of a demonstration. That was weird, but that's on his lawyer. I don't think that's on him so much. Sahar Silverman, was the link mind-blowing, Ian? Also, are time limits normal? First depth trial, now this one. Time limits are much more likely to be imposed on a trial like this, where it is where it's kind of a big deal, right? So this one is otherwise could run forever. Normally, you're going to get time limit issues just based on the fact that it's expensive. Most people in a lawsuit don't have unlimited money to pay their clients, and so they're going to hurry things along for that reason. Samantha Steinas, thanks for covering Runkle. Looking forward to your take, aka Upbeat Data. Thank you very much. Miali Noxus, I know this doesn't have anything to do with this case, but do you think the McColl case functionally annuls the expectation of protection against unreasonable search and seizure in the charter? I mean, it's still a question, but I'm not a big fan of 24.2 and that analysis of. So the people who aren't following this is another video I just put up. But in Canada, after they violate your rights, there's a second question as to whether or not that evidence might still go in at trial, and I don't like that a whole lot. Time, I watch Peter, but I love your snark. Thunder and lightning here in Louisiana. My huge dog, PETA, on the couch protecting me. I'm not sure if that's PETA as in bread or PETA as in pain in the ass, but either way, dogs are wonderful. Draco Me, thank you very much for the YouTube membership. Professor of Logic, the plan was to run into her and pop her like a money piñata. When that didn't work, lawsuit. It's hard to avoid the thought that, he thought there was some money in this. TS testified that while coming to from unconsciousness, he heard an angry boyfriend or husband, but this implied that he knew he hit a woman, but how? He claims he was the downhill skier. That's an excellent point. How did he know he hit a woman if he didn't, if he just didn't see and then, yeah, that's an interesting point. How does he say that he knew who hit him? Because he says he got hit snow, unconscious. How does he know it's a boyfriend or husband? I guess people are saying the scream. That's fair. I still think it's interesting because you wouldn't necessarily know that the scream. Yeah, I guess that point is kind of a waffle. Heart-shaped aisle. There's a one-way mirror at the back of the court. Could Terry have been observing from there all last week? Potentially. Chris Abaddon, thoughts on witness saying her truth and my truth? Seems like something the attorney should tell them not to say in prep. Daughters said it repeatedly. I actually suspect that they said that in prep and that they were told it was just fine. So yeah, I actually think that the attorneys probably thought that was a good way to cover for the fact that they are throwing their sister under the bus. I was in a bad relationship. I would never say anything bad. Oh, well, sorry to hear about the bad relationship, but fair enough. Please publish a coffee table book of freeze frames. Probably won't, but I like the idea. Professor of Logic, I'm going to qualify all answers in life with fully dressed or undressed from now on. Where did you go for dinner? I went for dinner at the Keg, fully dressed. So I don't like this guy. I was a bartender for years and I would never go anywhere with him. Yeah, he's got a vibe. Samantha Steinus, I truly feel his lawyers are ready to be done with him. I feel like all the lawyers are ready to be done with this whole case. Dory McNulty, this is a Sanderson snow job to the nth degree, pun intended. I like the pun. Zachary's mama, if you get hit this hard, the last thing you're thinking about is other people on the hill, shaking my head. Yeah, it's a weird bit of testimony. Patricia Johnson, thank you very much. LB, not TBI, lying. That seems to be the direction the poll is going. Creed M, why didn't he or Ramon tell Whitney, the ski EMT who spent 2 hours with him, about being unconscious for minutes since he remembers every sensation? BS. Yes, we'll talk about her in just a little moment here. There's still some super chats, but I'm going to sort of move on just because otherwise we'll be in super chats for an hour. All right, so now we'll sort of move on again and look at our next witness, because our next witness is, what is it? We will have, just pulling him up here. And it's a while of video here before we get to the next one, because they broke for lunch. There we go. Bringing the jury back in, I think. All right, we don't need to hear him playing with his pens. After watching Johnny Depp's Outstanding
If you
Attorneys,
could come
it's so
right
hard
up
to
here,
watch
sir.
others. Yep. I feel like Elaine would be a rock star in this room.
Thanks. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give in the case now before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you. Can I have a seat?
Good afternoon, sir. Just right around here, and there's the chair. And the left-hand armrest has been acting up again.
This is a great trial for mustaches, by the way. The mustaches are just something else.
I'm sorry, I have a cold.
Sir, one more thing. Would you please state your full name and spell all the words?
Middle name also?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Eric Paul Christensen, ERICPAULCHRISTIANSEN.
Let's introduce yourself. What city do you live in?
I live in Camas.
Okay. And married, kids?
I have 2 children. They're both in their 30s. I have 2 grandchildren.
And skiing has been a big part of your life. Is that fair?
It has been. I've been a ski instructor for 44 years, 39 of those at Deer Valley.
44
And,
years. Jesus. That's a
I
long
can think
time.
of what a ski instructor is, but just comment a little further on that, would you? What is a ski instructor?
Once I came to Deer Valley, I went through both of my levels of certification. There's 3 now, but they've added one on the front end.
So we're going to hear that this guy is an exceptional skier, and that is fantastic. I'm going to sort of summarize my thoughts on this guy because it's not so much on the, there's not a whole lot of sort of bombshell moments, although we do get to some interesting things, and I want to sort of talk about some of those. But basically, this guy is the ski instructor, and he came off to me looking pretty good. Not flawless. I mean, the problem is that he takes a tip, which, I mean, isn't to me a big deal because I suspect that these ski instructors get tipped by most of their clients, or at least most of their clients who are, you know, hosting them for like private lessons, and especially most of their wealthy private clients. But he just sort of does, he drops solid testimony, but I think that they can undermine him, at least in closing and so forth, as if he's biased.
You tell us. There's Gwyneth and there's Sanderson. Did you see a little bit more of this, or was this the end of what you saw?
I saw a little bit more of this, and
Can we go slow motion until he says, I want you to say stop.
Okay.
The judge is the governing person here, but you say stop when you no longer observe something? Is that okay, Your Honor? Thank you.
Okay. Once he was below us. Okay, so
we've got these
now
videos,
he's heading back.
right?
I would say right in there.
Okay, you turned away, and then at some point you came over, and so James, if there's a way to, were they at a complete stop when you came over?
Yes, they were.
And
So let's talk about videos, right? Because they've got these videos that they break out, and videos can be incredibly powerful, right? Because if you are if you're a juror and now you're getting to see this video as if it's actually what happened, but they didn't create this by like scooping open this guy's head and magically turning his brain meats into a video. They instead just kind of made a video and ran this by the guy. This is not, and I see somebody asking, is this actual footage? No, this is pure rendering, right? This is pure imagination. And doesn't it make it seem like this guy's testimony is now much more credible and believable and so forth? Doesn't it seem like this guy's thing is much, it kind of privileges his testimony over other witnesses. And this is, to my mind, very dangerous in a trial, because I don't know what this costs, getting this animation, but I'm guessing it's a lot. And the problem that you have is that this is going to end up favoring the side with money, which in a lot of cases is going to end up favoring specifically, it's going to favor like the government in criminal trials. So that's a real concern, right? I have some real issues with these kinds of videos because if there's something that's wrong in that, it makes it seem like it's absolutely correct. So they just, they just run with these, and it's I think it's a bit of a problem here. So yeah, this is Christensen. I think he did pretty well, but there were some moments that he had some trouble on.
so is there a way, James, to move this to when they were at a complete stop?
Turn it off.
He's going to put it back on here.
I mean,
All
I
right.
thought this witness was trying to be honest, but that isn't
This is
something that
you
everyone's going to
on the
assume.
right. Is that?
That would be correct.
And then they've now collided. They're pretty close to the edge there. Would you agree?
Look how far
Yes,
back they put
because
Ramon.
as I
right?
walked around, I was actually standing below the lift. I mean, below the run slightly.
And there's the buckets right there, right?
Right, those are the tubes.
And now can we play the remainder? Thank you.
I mean,
and
We don't actually have
Moses-
this video, right? There's
uh,
no.
is going to say he essentially followed you over. Do you have any and heard something? I'm just wondering.
Okay.
So
all I
Your Honor should rule.
Sustained.
Okay.
Okay.
So, there's that sort of video footage. And then we've got, there's some places where they kind of tripped him up a little bit. And I say a little bit because I don't think they were terribly successful on it, but they tried.
Miss Oak said she went over to the crash scene and was assisting you with the two people in the crash.
No, she at one point she had the kids follow her and they went down the hill and they came by us a little bit, but she did not assist. No.
Did she stop by you?
No.
Did she also say that one of the kids said, "Mommy, watch us ski"?
That would have happened at the very top of the hill, not at the time of the incident.
Yeah, but just before.
No, it didn't happen while it was just before the incident. It would have happened
Let's say
at the top.
within 10 seconds.
No.
Well, how long would it take to go from, when you say the top of the hill, do you mean when you get off the chairlift?
Yeah, as you get off the chairlift, you have to push yourself a little bit to the top of the bandana run, and it would have been in that area. So it would have been, a minute or so ahead.
So the viewpoint of those animations, those demonstrative, like a cartoon, it was was
It
that
might-
where Miss Oaks
possible.
would have heard one of the children say, "Mommy, watch us ski"?
It would have been before we started to get to that point.
Well, how do you know that? You testified that didn't happen.
What I'm saying is it didn't happen during that time.
Okay, so you do you agree then that one of the children said, "Mommy, watch us ski"?
I cannot speak to that. All I know is it didn't happen while we were skiing down the hill.
It could have happened with Miss Oaks. She could have heard it.
Maybe she did.
Miss Paltrow, why would the kids say that? But they wanted their mother to hear them and watch them ski.
They get him with a little, into a little bit of, but ultimately, I don't think that they really landed any body blows in this cross, right? They try this. I timestamped this thing about the skis and whether they were removed before or after. Nobody cares about that. It's really kind of not a major issue. And then we get into this exchange that is just kind of, this is getting into what a lot of people kind of agreed with the witness.
Say where she's on top of Terry Sanderson. They testified that the positions were different than that. Do you know that? You skied over.
Here we go.
And you yelled at Terry Sanderson, "What did you do? What did you do?" True?
That is not true.
You don't yell at all in your life?
I did not yell. First of all, I was trying to observe what was happening, and I took off my skis. I came around to try to untangle them. I did not yell at Mr. Sanderson.
Do you ever teach group lessons?
I do.
Do sometimes the students spread out?
At Deer Valley, private rotation instructors teach max fours, which means there's no more than 4 people in your group. So I do teach those. As far as spreading out, you try to keep your group as close together as possible, but there are tasks that where they may go down one at a time and things like that.
Well, if a student goes far away, don't you yell at that student to come get back in line? Don't you have to holler at them?
I don't yell. I don't
How
have
would
a,
they hear you then?
we ski down to them.
Well, then the other students go another direction. You never raise your voice at Deer Valley? Is that your policy?
If I raise my voice, I lose my voice very quickly. I can't yell. As far as talking to students, you try to maintain a class situation where we will stop at certain places. We'll gather
Well,
together.
Thank
We
you.
try to
We'll,
always gather at the edge of the run so we're out of the line of traffic. But no, I don't go around yelling all over the resort.
I didn't say that. I just said, do you ever yell once at a student who might be too far away from your group?
do you ever
want them to
yell at
come
all?
back?
No, they can't come back. If they're below you, you have to go to them. They're not going to come up the hill.
You can't say, hey, come back over here, Bill.
Oh, I might, if they're just across the run, I will say things like that, but I'm not yelling.
You're whispering? Or
No, I'm talking in
the
a normal voice.
But if there's a lift machinery or that there's noise or something, you never raise your voice at all while you're ski instructing?
This is getting a little silly, don't you think?
I don't know. You're the one that says you never yell while you're ski instructing. I find that hard to believe. So you didn't see the crash, but you.
Like, do you feel like this is landing at all here? Do you feel like that's actually scoring points on anybody? Because I feel like it's not. And I feel like the witness actually got the better of him with this is getting a little silly, don't you think? You never want the witness to score the points on you. And you look at the gallery. The gallery's all smiling. The gallery's all like, this is funny. The witness just won this exchange, and you don't want that as counsel. And in fact, the witness's comment on that is forcing this lawyer to move along. The lawyer has been badgered out of his entire cross-examination strategy here, or a substantial portion of it, because he's just failed to land this in the slightest. I mean, I thought he was going to get into really silly season. Like, is he, what if you had bees in your, snowsuit? You'd scream then, right? What if you were on fire? What if you were, sucked into a jet engine? Like, I don't know. Like, it was just starting to be a little bizarre. Sometimes you have a line that you think is gonna work, but you have to know when to give up on a cross-examination line. And I think he took that one too far and ended up getting burned. Like, just straight up, I think he got burned on that. So that was this guy. If basically this guy, my long and short on this one is, if you were pro Paltrow, this guy's great. You think he's a great witness. He's totally honest, and he is, confirms everything you're saying, right? If you are already in Paltrow's camp. If at this point in the trial you are thinking Sanderson is winning, then your conclusion about this guy is probably that he is that he's getting paid, and that he's a biased witness, and that he's not reliable for that reason. I feel like this guy is I feel like this guy doesn't move the needle for anybody. I don't think that this guy is going to push a juror one way or the other. He's just there today. So that's sort of all we get out of him. All right, let's move on to our next witness here. And our next witness is a much bigger problem.
So help you God. Thank you. You can have a seat.
Good afternoon.
You remember this face?
Yes.
You remember this
Maybe
face?
once you get up to the microphone, if you could state your full name and spell it. Thank you.
This is the woman that has been hailed by both sides as the hero of the
Whitney
day.
Smith.
She's the EMT.
WHITNEY SMITH.
So you know what a big problem is? This EMT that that Sanderson has been saying is the best person ever and the greatest, and all of this is being called by the defense. That's a bad thing for the plaintiff, right? Because if your hero is being called by the other side, maybe not so great for you. And she doesn't confirm a whole bunch of things that
Whitney,
were
thank you
critical
for being
Sanderson, but there's a moment where she just starts basically she is dropping the hammer. We'll just sort of see if we can bring that up here.
here. Terry said that he was uncertain what had happened. He actually told you that.
Correct.
Okay. And
We're
then
just getting up to it here.
LMF,
I don't have the exact timestamp.
you understand is Craig Ramon, is that right?
Yes.
Taking them down as you watch things is
Told
tough.
Terry that a woman had struck him from behind, knocking him down. So that was something you heard Ramon tell Terry?
Yes.
He didn't tell you that?
No.
Okay. Let's go to the next section here. Do you mind reading it for us?
I asked if anyone had spoken to the woman. Can I call him Craig? And this is that all right?
Sure. I mean, you know who it is that
Craig
you met.
said he had asked her if she was all right. He said she had told him she was fine and skied away. During assessment, transport, and time in first aid, Craig continued to say that the woman involved in the collision was Gwyneth Paltrow.
So you remember that
LMF
he
is
kept,
large male friend.
bringing up this point of Miss Paltrow.
It's not large
And
MF.
you don't know how he knew it was her.
No, I don't.
And then I think the last section, which I guess is a couple paragraphs. Sorry, I cut that off.
Now, Clark Kent,
This
James
so at
here,
Empire
does
First
so
Aid,
much better.
we were met
than
by
Owens.
3 others from Terry Skiing Group. Do you remember that?
I do.
And who were those?
According.
Now, if you watched this, you will have seen that at the previous witness, Sanderson's counsel were objecting repeatedly, and they're getting a bunch of those objections sustained. Like they were just, objecting over and over and over again. With Clark Kent doing this direct, or plaintiff's counsel doesn't get up out of their chair. They're just stuck sitting there listening to this. They can't do a dang thing to interrupt this because he's being much more careful. Clark Kent is doing a much better direct than Owens does. Just straight up, he does.
Into this, it was a blonde woman, a man, and Debbie.
Okay, and you didn't have any interaction with them, or did you?
I don't specifically recall it. I do know they came into first aid to check on their friend, but that's the extent of my recollection there.
Okay, and did they stay with Terry the whole time he was there?
No, after, and I don't know how long, everybody went back out skiing and one went to go get the car.
Okay, and left Terry with you alone?
Correct.
Okay. And then there's another sentence here that seems like similar things you've said before. I recall LMF or Craig reiterating to the group his identification of the woman to have been Gwyneth Paltrow. Do you see that?
I do.
And when you write his identification of the woman, does that mean that it was your understanding that he personally identified the person as Miss Paltrow?
That was, yes. I guess I probably made the assumption that it was a site thing, and that's what he had come up with.
Okay. And then
the reiterates is a big issue because Ramon, she identifies that Ramon repeatedly says that was Gwyneth Paltrow, that was Gwyneth Paltrow, that was Gwyneth Paltrow. And so I think that there's an inference to be drawn that Ramon was real interested in this, right? Sanderson says he didn't care. Ramon certainly seems to have cared. So that's potentially concerning.
And eventually Debbie, who had left to retrieve the car, came back and picked him up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then at the bottom, you identify LMF as Craig.
It came back to me, yes.
Okay.
Now,
When you say it came back, you couldn't remember his name at the start, but then later remembered it.
Correct.
Okay. As you were writing out and bringing these memories back.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Her demeanor through this is of somebody who just doesn't have a dog in this fight. She's just here to testify. And in fact, right at the outset, of this direct, right at the beginning of it, she actually repeats something that Sanderson says, which is that, Paltrow crashed into him, which is harmful to defense. So right at the outset, that to me is like, oh, wow. That tells me that she's not here as a mercenary. She's not here to protect one side or another. She's just telling the story as it is, right? She doesn't care who wins or who loses, because at the end of the day, she's going to go back and EMT on that same mountain.
So is it fair to say that his ribs, or let me I'll ask it this way, were his ribs his chief complaint?
Yes.
And he did not offer any indication to you of a head injury?
No.
That's bad for plaintiff, right? Because why wouldn't he say this when he says he... Keep in mind, plaintiff has just testified that he has been seeing stars and he knows his brain is suffering and he can't remember his name and he can't anything. And he's not mentioning it to the EMT? Like, I'm sorry, if I thought that my brain was, cooked by a rock or something, I would absolutely be mentioning that to an EMT. Yeah, that's real bad for...
I have just one last thing I want to look at, and then I think we're done. So dizziness, loss of balance, did you observe anything like that?
No, I was monitoring for those things.
Here we get
and
to the
didn't
part
see
that's
them.
just brutal.
Blurred vision?
No.
Ringing in the ears?
No.
Sensitivity to light?
No.
Sensitivity to sound?
No.
Mood changes?
Not that I observed.
Was he dazed or confused?
No.
Did you talk about a headache?
No.
Nausea?
No.
Vomiting?
No.
Fatigue?
I don't know if I asked him about that one.
Okay.
So not that I recall there.
Okay, got it. Any speech problems?
Not that I noticed.
And the jury has seen a picture of you before.
Okay.
Sorry to inform you. We have been talking about you already.
Okay.
And do you remember Mr. Sanderson taking a picture
I do.
of you
Yes.
during that first aid?
Yes, while we were at Empire First Aid.
Yeah, and did you note at any time, was he on his phone and making a post about that picture?
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Did you help him put together a post at all?
No.
Okay. Did you check his eyes carefully?
I did, yes. We assess for basically pupil reactivity when you shine a light, if they're constricting and then dilating back out again.
Okay, and you remember doing that?
His were equal and reactive.
Okay, and what does that tell you if they're equal and reactive?
It's just another test to see if potentially there is a brain bleed mostly.
Okay, got it. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan.
That is really bad for plaintiff, because they basically just go through like all the signs of head injury that she checked, and basically she was unable to find any sign that that he had a head injury. So that's not fantastic for plaintiff, right? So I think that's not spectacular for that. And ultimately, the best that the plaintiff side is able to do in this, midway through their cross-examination, there's this moment, and I didn't get the timestamp, I'm sorry, so I'm not going to be able to pull it right up, but the plaintiff's counsel says, Mr. Sanderson really appreciates what you did for him. He appreciated it at the time, and he appreciates it now. And I'm like, ouch, right? If that's sort of the best you can do, is just, hey, we appreciate that. I feel like I feel like she was a really bad witness for the plaintiff side and really good for the defense. And she is that because she just doesn't care. Like, she's not trying to be a good witness for the defense or anything like that. She's just doing what she can. And then we finish off, and we're going to wrap things up here fairly soon, because we have this guy. And this guy is the manager at the Slopes. He's also wearing a tie that is.
And he is subsequently.
I don't like his tie. I'm just commenting about ties. But basically, this is another guy who I feel like is like he doesn't move the needle one way or the other. And the reason why is, once again, if you think that Sanderson is correct, and if you think that Sanderson's theory, like if you're going along with Sanderson's theory that that the ski hill is involved in this, and that the ski hill was trying to basically cover this up and defend their celebrity clients. And I mean, it's plausible, right? I mean, the notion that celebrities get treated differently than you or I do, like us peasants. Absolutely. And I can tell you, I am not a big celebrity by any stretch. I am super freaking minor. Like I got what, 218,000 subscribers here. So I'm a nobody in the sphere of everything. I've gotten better treatment at times because people have recognized me and gone, "Oh, you're a minor celebrity," or whatever. I'm not Gwyneth Paltrow, right? So the notion that Gwyneth Paltrow has the ability to get better treatment and to possibly get have things covered up for her is not implausible to me, right? It's not something where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I find that to be potentially believable. Is that what happened? I don't know, right? But you know, I can tell you that, you know, there's places where there's front of the line access and you know, for celebrities and so forth. It's just, it's the way the world works, right? Some people are more important than so yeah, if you are in Team Sanderson, you are going to take this guy as he is a shill for Paltrow, and that all they did was trying to do this. If you are on Team Paltrow, you're going to take this guy as credible and believable and so forth. And so I don't think this guy is going to move the needle at all. Either way, there were some interestingly weird moments. One of them is that this guy on cross-examination establishes that he knows plaintiff's counsel, which is weird because now I've got all sorts of questions about how do they know each other and how do they, you know, what's the connection and so forth. I don't think it matters, but it's a weird moment. They also, I mean, we hear that counsel for the ski hill is present. They're sitting there at the one side. I don't really care about this guy one way or another. I don't think that he's significant one way or another. Now the trial ends, or the day of trial ends, the way all of the days of trial ends, or all the ways the days of this trial have ended, which is Owens is gonna whine. Because of course he is.
Auger, our ski expert, Irvin Share.
Let me just pull this up if I can get it from the start here.
Yes. Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Yes, thank you.
Did you have something you wanted to talk about? Because of course,
Your Honor,
he
the
knows
plaintiffs
Owens
still
has
have
something
not
to
rested.
talk about.
That was supposed to take place Friday at the end of the day. I had Apple Martin, Moses Martin, and Brad Falchuk all ready to go this morning, and they were unable to testify. As I understand it, plaintiffs will not oppose Apple and Moses having their deposition transcripts read into the evidence. Can we confirm?
Mr. Sykes?
That's correct, as long as our additions are added, which I've given counsel.
Thank you. And Brad Falchuk is still.
The judge just looks so patient here.
We still haven't made a decision. We may need to read his transcript into. We have 2 full days tomorrow.
The court hasn't made a decision about what?
Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Oh, sorry.
Signing off for the night. Thank you for carving out this time and doing
Brad
the
Falchuk
recaps.
is the
It's
husband.
amazing seeing how much fun you're having with these. To
With
those
me?
watching,
And what decision do I need to make about that?
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm having
We-
way too much fun because this
You
is
need
such
to
a
make a
gong
decision.
show of a
Okay.
trial.
I'm speaking through a mask, which makes it hard. Tomorrow, Tuesday, can I give my lineup?
What's the lineup for tomorrow?
McMahon.
Well, that's
Oh, you're
for them to
giving the
tell us.
lineup. You're giving the lineup. Okay, go ahead.
We're starting with, finish up Mr.
Graff.
Graff, we're gonna nod.
My, my objection to, we're already terribly behind.
Just a minute. Is Mr. Graff in the room here? Maybe you better run out and grab him and make sure he's going to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. Somebody from the plaintiff's side.
All right, so they're getting.
So 4 of our
Oh,
witnesses have
he's
been
gone.
thrown off, just to let you know, because we had 7 planned for today.
And
Oh,
that's your
why is
choice,
Owens
counsel.
whining? Why? Owens,
To
you're
throw
so
them
bad
out.
at life.
So each side gets 50% of the trial time, and you're making a decision about how to allocate that time.
Based on the assumption that plaintiffs would be done on Friday.
And that's between the two of you.
Okay, I'm not complaining, I'm just putting this on the record.
You are
And
complaining.
so we have 8 experts, 4 tomorrow, most out of state, 4 on Wednesday. So we're lumping in now people onto Thursday morning. Anyway,
You see that I've got in the time for Thursday morning, it's 2 hours and 7.75.
So Owens is complaining about time, and Owens has been running out the clock in a variety of ways. And the judge is just not having it. The judge basically says, this sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. And so, tough. You didn't plan out your time. You're at the end of it. This is like when Elaine was going, but we have very little time left, Your Honor. And Judge A was like, yep, you do. Get over it. It's yeah, Owens is like a headache with legs. That's sort of how I can describe him. So that's how they finish off the day. Once again, they're just Owens is just gonna drive us nuts. And yeah. So tomorrow we have more witnesses. We're gonna see what's going on, and it's gonna be just it's gonna continue to be a gong show. I am gonna ride this trial out to the end because I am super keen on it. Now I got to apologize to folks because it is late. It is 11 o'clock where I am, and I will say that I see the Hollywood attorney is in the chat and has said that she's holding off on doing her live stream until I'm wrapped up. I kind of want to watch that, so I'm gonna wrap up. I also have seen that I want to cover the Afro Man lawsuit. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about some developments in the Rust trial, including one that surprised me. So I'm going to find a time to do a stream on that, but that I will probably have to do sometime. It'll probably be on the weekend. And I don't even know if I'm free this weekend because this weekend is exciting. I'm not sure. I can't do it on the Saturday. I might be able to do it on the Sunday. So we'll have to see. I'm doing all sorts of things on the Saturday. I'm doing shooting sports and so forth. I'm just going to see. I got to see if I can find the Hollywood attorney so I can try to redirect this. Yes. Do we have that stream? Is that up and running? Can I? All right, I'm going to see. Give me a second. I'm just trying to see if I can set up that redirect because that's where I'm going. And hopefully you guys are headed there too after all this is done. Add. Hollywood attorney, I am not on your redirect list, so I can't do that. I am going to drop that in the chat here so that people can see it. And now I've got a bunch of super chats to go through. So we're going to go through all of those because I owe people responses to super chats. Horse welfare. I had a concussion from falling off a horse. I remember moments leading up to the incident, but nothing for over 24 hours after the incident. That's very common. Ciotha Vest. TBI patients are highly volatile. My mom was in workers' comp. She's dealt with court and TBI, and he sounded legit to her. Fair enough. 9 Inch Nails gal. Ski fall 2012. Cross skis. Thank F for my helmet. And we'll just... and nothing else until I came to people yelling my name meters from where I know I fell. Ouch. And that's 1 of 2. 2 of 2 was face down and no one moved me until ski medics were there since I was snow plowing, but forgot how to ski. Yeah, BS. I'm Team Paltrow now. Fair enough. And I should note, I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that she is in business selling what is basically a bunch of scammy garbage products. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're selling vag eggs, I'm not a fan of that. I think that's kind of, yeah. So, not a huge fan of that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that she's necessarily, did whatever. So that's the kind of problem we got here. Rachel Dueck, based on what I saw today and heard from his daughters, I get the distinct feeling that he thinks that he's always in the right. It may be. Lita Randolph, okay, I'm sorry, but this guy has about an hour's worth of details when the incident happened quickly. Surprised how many details he's got. Ciotha Vest, brain injuries can have symptoms 6 months after. It's true. They evolve, they change. Slim Jim Slim, he makes me want to order some KFC. Yep. He does kind of look like the Colonel, which is kind of awkward when his name is Sanderson. It just makes that nickname super easy. I'm 66. I quit skiing years ago when job insurance was a concern. That was at Heavenly Valley in Lake Tahoe, and I had been skiing since I was 4. I'm sorry to hear that you had to give that up, but sometimes that's part of aging, unfortunately. LMR at 5'10" and 5'5", her upslope hit would be neck head hit. That's a thought. I don't have the sort of dimensions and so forth. Excuse me, had a TBI at 39 years old. Probably didn't think about fault for months because I was so overwhelmed with confusion and vertigo. 12 years on and still get the spins. I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, them thinking about fault so fast was weird, right? So, all right. 9 Inch Nails gal, how to find someone with neurodiversity, acquired brain injury, otherwise, put them with somebody who's neurodiverse, and their radar will tell them, tell you if they're truthful. I think there's some truth to that, but yeah. Lita Randolph is saying, Ian, she only owns 30% of Goop, and they sell other stuff besides candles. They sell a lot of stuff that goes into you. So I don't know. And her Smells Like Vagina candles are sold out, by the way. So that is fantastic. The Hollywood Attorney, let's be late or going to be late to my live because I adore you. Let's collab if you don't mind my little channel. Yes, shoot me a Twitter DM. We should make that happen because I like your content. So Professor of Logic, that's because he's suing the bus company next, referring to the throwing under the bus. Yeah. Anna, thank you for your daily post-trial live analysis. It's much better to understand, and your personal anecdotes help explain some terms and concept better. I'm glad it's helpful. Amused, Sanderson, malingering, feigning, not buying his story at all. Lots of people thinking that one. Deanna B, how his demeanor changed when the cross started. That's always something I pay attention to, is whether people are the same on cross as they are outside. Cheryl C was asking, Ian, did you read the motions in limine? I should. There was one referencing at least one SH incident at some point. I was wondering if we could hear about it during Sanderson's cross. Interesting. I will have to check that out. Normie, Sanderson has selective memory throughout the cross. It does seem that he is suffering from memory problems that only come up when they're sort of a problem for him. Just because, I'm sorry, because no man has ever exaggerated their height. I feel like that is a thing that's happened. Time, can I do that? My other personality doesn't like to clean. Wouldn't we all like to have a personality that likes cleaning and, chores and all that? Samantha Steinus, I'd be mad if a guy lied about 3 inches too, lol. Love it. Hollywood attorney, I don't believe him. He was a bad witness. He's not reliable. He was a terrible witness. Jonathan Duncan, thank you for the YouTube membership. Rachel Dueck, is there a sorry law in Saskatchewan? That is where I live. I don't know. I can try to look that up. I know there's one in Ontario and Alberta. I don't know about Saskatchewan offhand. Jonathan Duncan, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. M169, can't help it. This reminds me of the suit against Rick Springfield. A fan claimed he knocked her out with his buttocks. He won, didn't settle. I'm not familiar with that, but knocking somebody out with your buttocks is impressive. Just because this still makes me wonder how Sanderson would be behind based on the projections. And for later, how did Ramon know if Christensen never mentioned Gwyneth Paltrow? This brings questions for Gwyneth Paltrow's theory. Fair enough. Thrift with Joy, thank you very much. In appreciation of your work, showing us the crucial parts of this trial. Easy to get lost in the weeds without it. I feel like this trial is the weeds. Aislinn R., thank you for the membership. Much appreciated. JR, have we heard much about his previous brain issues? We're going to hear all about that with the defense experts. That's going to be where they go. Time, thank you very much. Very generous, and but we love you. Thank you. Against the Tide, you're much more awesome than Gwyneth Paltrow. Thank you very much, although I don't know if that is in fact the case, but we'll see there. Annie Lay, did we miss the part where TS said he exaggerated how long he was unconscious to get his doctor's attention? Love Runkle spicy recaps. We did skip over that, but that was concerning. Philip Kane, we'll have to talk about this on another stream as to what's going on C11. It is a little off topic, but C11 is terrible. All right, so I'm going to sort of wrap up here. Again, I'm dropping the link again for the Hollywood Attorneys live stream talking about this, I think the same issue. So let's all head that way. Thank you guys for joining me. I really do enjoy these things. They are a lot of fun. I like being able to share that with all of you because this is such a weird trial. I didn't expect to be interested in this trial. It's totally not my usual thing, right? Because I talk about criminal law and firearm law and so forth. I got interested because the lawyering was so bad, and it continues to be an interesting, weird trial. All right, so I'm going to hit the big in stream button, and I will see everyone later.